get
We
the
should
memo.
plan that.
Well, Joan and I got the black.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, November 14th, 2013. If we could just all please rise and say our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We're going to start off the meeting with our consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes of 10/24/2013, acceptance of warrants number 19V14, number 18P14, number 20P14.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, in place of Mary Beth, tonight we have Ryan Bahar here, which we appreciate you coming out.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. What's going on at the schools?
So, I feel like, Mr. DeFranco, are you going to give an athletic?
Yeah, but you're part of one of the teams. You can talk
Okay,
about that.
yeah. So, I don't want to repeat everything, but just a few quick highlights. Most recently, we've been involved, the whole school's been involved really with what's going on the soccer teams. Both our girls and boys varsity team made it to the D4 North finals, which means in addition to getting a really good overall record during the regular season, during the playoffs they advanced there. And unfortunately the girls lost in the finals, but the boys played right after, and they kind of they made Georgetown look really good because we ended up beating Hamilton Wenham, and that was phenomenal. And then the boys varsity soccer team played in the state semifinals against Cohasset on Tuesday night at 7 in Quincy, and unfortunately we lost 2-0, but it was a really energized game, and it was in the cold. And
Very cold.
even though we lost in the locker room after, we kind of tried to focus on how great of a season we had. We had 17 seniors this year, so it was quite an unusual team. And we've known each other for so long. We played with each other for so long, so we have a really unique bond. So we just tried to enjoy the moment and how far we had come. And not going to soccer practice after school the past few days was a little weird, but
Now, Ryan,
life
did
goes
they
on.
have a bus take kids down or fans down, or no?
No, they didn't have a fan bus.
I think the plan was if they had made it one more game,
Okay,
which
they
was
would've done
Friday, I
that.
think.
Exactly.
Did a lot of people go
Finals.
from town?
I would say a pretty good amount of people went, especially because it's
a
in
good fan club.
Quincy.
Yeah, it's in Quincy. It's more than an hour away. So the fact that we probably got like around 30, 50 plus fans was incredible. And it really does make a difference when you're on the field and you hear people chanting your name. So
There were a lot of students there, too.
always a
a
nice-
big student fan club.
exactly. Yeah.
In addition to parents and family.
For sure. So that was awesome. Other sports news, our football team recently had its second win of the season.
In a row.
In a row, exactly. So, it's a win streak, I guess. Our cheerleaders, I believe they won a regional award competition, so that was really exciting for them. Cross country, we had one person, Tom Mulligan, qualify for all states.
Right.
So that's excellent.
That's excellent.
And I'd say that's just a good overview of what's been going on athletically. And all the sports are pretty much done now. Football keeps going until Thanksgiving.
The game's home this year. The game is
Oh,
home this
good.
year.
Which is awesome. Yeah. Other things that are going around the school. Our pep rally celebration and activities begins next week. And basically starting next Tuesday until the following Wednesday, every single day we, as a school, there's a theme you have to dress up toward. So I'll give you an example. There's this thing called salad dressing day. So I'd say either on the Wednesday or Thursday of the first week, each grade is assigned a different salad dressing that they kind of have to dress according to. So the way this works is freshmen get like blue cheese, so they have they have to dress in like something blue, but like it's really weird. Then something that makes more sense is Caesar, so you dress kind of in togas.
Yeah.
That's what
gee.
and then there's ranch. Then seniors do Thousand Island. So we kind of got creative.
Yeah, I guess.
And
I have never heard of a dressing.
Yeah, we have
salad dressing day.
Exactly. We have more normal dress-up days. Like we have Decade Day. That's the first day. We pick our favorite decade. The day of the pep rally itself, before we leave for Thanksgiving break, we're kind of just dressing in Georgetown colors just to be.
Yeah, that's a hoot. I go to that every year.
Yeah.
That is a hoot.
The pep rally is really interesting because we do a lot of events for the grades to compete against each other. Like one of my favorites is probably the tug of war, because you're watching all these like huge muscular seniors compete against these like freshmen who are half their size. So
sometimes they surprise you though.
Yeah, you do get surprises, and it's a little embarrassing when a grade below you beats you, but I mean it's always fun. It's always fun just to come together as a school before we all have to leave and just have a good time. So that's what's going on in terms of pep rally. And our musical Once Upon a Mattress, they're starting to have rehearsals for, so they're getting really excited for that. It's going to be really great. Everyone's saying how you should already go. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's great. Once Upon a Mattress.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone here from the public that would like to make a comment on any of the agenda items? No? Thank you. Okay. We're gonna go, Whittier School Superintendent,
Yeah, come on up, Bill and
Mr. DeRosa and Joanne,
Testaverdi.
which I've never met either of you before, so thank you for
I'm
coming.
Bill.
Thank you.
And I have a small, it was our 40th anniversary this year.
Oh, I
and
love
I have a small
presents.
gift for everybody, and it's well under $50, so none of us have to worry about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. We had a 40th anniversary celebration, and these were the favors from our anniversary celebration.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's very nice, Bill.
We have like that.
Yeah, we go.
Oh, awesome.
If Ryan has to sit here and participate in the whole meeting, he can get it.
I like gifts.
I'm fine.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I have prepared a little bit of an overview of what's going on at Whittier and a little bit of the facts in terms of Georgetown's enrollment and those kinds of things. As I mentioned earlier, we are celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. We opened on September 10th, 1973. That's when staff came. A week later, the students arrived. So what we did this year, because we have right now close to 70% of our students that graduate identify as going on to 2- and 4-year schools, we decided that we would hold some kind of a celebration that would result in a scholarship drive to raise money for a 40th anniversary scholarship fund. And I'd like to say that we exceeded my expectations. I was hoping for $10,000 to $15,000, and we actually raised $31,000. So I was actually absolutely thrilled. Yes, it was fantastic. We did an ad book, and a lot of former alum from Whittier, purchased ads within the book. We had a night at DeBurrow's. It was a dinner dance. $45 of that ticket went toward the scholarship fund. So it was a really, really successful scholarship drive, and I thank everybody for that. Also, I'd like to thank, obviously, Georgetown being one of our member communities. I'd like to thank you all for the continued support over the years. I have the opportunity to meet often with Carol and have a great working relationship with Carol, your superintendent, which I definitely appreciate. In terms of some overall Whittier highlights, for the 8th year in a row, we're happy to say we've had 100% pass rate on the MCAS exam. So we're absolutely positively thrilled about that. Because about 10 years ago it wasn't so positive and it wasn't so great. So the staff and students have worked really, really hard and come a really long way. The class of 2014 already has a 100% pass rate, so we're all set for graduation this spring, I guess, because we usually graduate in May now rather than June. And this year, our class of 2015, which were last year's sophomores, first time out on the MCAS exam, on the ELA portion of the MCAS exam, had a 100% pass rate. And what's really outstanding for us on that is usually we did stronger in math. We were always stronger in the math and technology, so that was kind of a first. On December 10th, We're expecting 153 students from Georgetown. We do grade 8 tours where the students come and spend a morning. We transport back and forth where the students come and spend a morning at Whittier Tech. This year, Georgetown had 20 students apply and 16 were accepted, so we were thrilled because that's the highest it's been in in the history of the school from Georgetown. And of the 16 that were accepted, 10 actually enrolled. So there are 39 Georgetown students right now enrolled in Whittier, and that's 6 more than last year, which obviously changes assessment when the spring comes, and because the assessment is based upon enrollment. We graduated 272 seniors last year. 69% identified as going on to college, 28% to their technical areas, and 3% joined the military. We had 149 of those seniors participate in cooperative education, which we're absolutely thrilled. On co-op, just to quickly go over that, on their vocational technical week, they go out to work. It's monitored. We have staff go and visit. The employer evaluates, so they're able to gain more skills in their area. And we're thrilled because even with a difficult economy, we've held pretty steady with our co-op numbers. And for lots of students, that becomes their employment. We also have a new approval for hospitality management, which we made a component of culinary arts. That gets into things like events planning, managing hotels, lodges, those kinds of things. And there's more of a need in the Merrimack Valley and on the North Shore for that, which is why we expanded our culinary arts area. We've been very strong in health occupations. We graduated 48 seniors last year with their CNA licensure, which is great because they need that licensure in order to be able to go on and work in the field. We had 14 cosmetology students graduate as certified cosmetologists. They were actually out as seniors because they had done their 1,000 hours and had passed the licensure exam prior to graduating from high school. So we're thrilled. We're really happy with all that's going on. We're thrilled for the support that we get from the communities. We're always happy when there are more in-district kids, more and more in-district kids coming, which is a really, really great thing. And that's kind of like an overview, and I certainly would be open to answering any questions or...
Can you just tell me what other towns other than Georgetown can go to Whittier?
Okay, the 3 cities, and if I forget someone, I'll apologize in advance because there are 14 altogether.
Okay.
And if I don't do them in alpha order, the 3 cities are Amesbury, Newburyport, and Haverhill.
Okay.
Then we have the towns of Georgetown, Groveland, Merrimack, Raleigh, Newbury, Salisbury, West Newbury. I said Groveland and Merrimack, right? Ipswich. So there are 8 towns.
So they come
Very
from
good,
quite a
though.
distance.
Yeah. Yes, the Ipswich have the longest ride. Yes,
Yeah.
students from Ipswich do. Yes.
And is there public busing?
We
from
because
Ipswich?
we're a regional school, we have to provide transportation. We do. We get reimbursed for it, not at the rate
Not
that the
at the
state
rate
ever
they
tells
promise.
you. Yeah, exactly. They promise you the moon.
They encouraged regionalization, and one of the carrots was, you'll
Yeah.
get 100% reimbursement, and I don't think it's ever been 100%.
It's nowhere near. It's probably last year was about 52,
Yeah,
53%.
yeah. I mean, I think there's always pressure on
Yeah.
the legislature to come through
Yeah.
on that promise, but it competes with everything else.
Mm.
They threaten to cut it, and then everybody rallies and says, "No,
Exactly.
you can't cut it. That was the deal." And
Yeah.
so it is always a contentious issue.
And we also provide the busing for after-school activities for sports events as well, so that the students can still participate in extracurricular activities as well as athletic programs, so that their busing is available for them to be involved in the school community.
Yeah.
What are some of the athletic programs?
I'm sorry?
What are some of the athletic programs?
We have football, soccer, lacrosse, baseball, wrestling, track.
They have a lot.
How
yeah, we do.
Do you have your own facility for track?
Yes, we have our own track, yes.
Yep.
Cross
Down
country.
behind the school.
Cross-country.
Yeah, we have cross-country.
Yeah. And what league do you participate in, Bill? You're not in
4, Division 4.
Division 4, okay.
Yeah, I've never even been by Whittier. I don't even know where it is.
Oh, it's.
I'm sorry to say
It's a
that.
very nice facility.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, they've done a lot of nice.
We've done a-
upgrades.
yeah, we've
I
done
mean,
a lot
their-
to keep
their-
it up over
their
the years.
restaurant is amazing.
Really?
And the public can go. But
Yes.
when can
We're
the public
open
go?
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, from 8:30 to 10 for breakfast, and then 11 to, it's open till 1, but we stop serving around 12:30.
Oh, so it's like your culinary kids?
Yeah,
Yes.
and you go in,
Yes.
it's just like going to a restaurant, but the price is really, really reasonable, and the food is really, really
It was
good.
written up in either the.
It was in Globe North this
Yeah.
past
Bill,
Sunday.
Bill
Yes.
sometimes
Wow.
hosts little sessions, and you know, I go and you know, there's always just so much great food. You know,
Yeah, we had a food critic come from Boston Globe
Yeah.
that a couple of weeks ago, and it was written up in Sunday's
Yeah. So
Globe North.
you can go there for lunch someday. You would enjoy
More than
it.
welcome.
Thank you. I have to find it first.
Oh, it's not
easy.
hard.
It's
not
very
hard.
easy to find. And the,
Just,
the
is that bridge back in though?
Yes, thank
Oh,
God.
thank God.
Oh, so you're by that
My
bridge.
GPS
okay.
Yeah.
would always take me by
I
the
know.
bridge, and I'd get to the bridge and say, "Oh, I knew the bridge would be closed." So now the bridge is open, it's much easier to get
Oh,
to
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I just found Haverhill High School recently myself.
Yeah,
so.
if you just Google it and get the address, it'll get you right there.
Mm.
It's definitely worth doing.
Yeah. Maybe any questions? I know, we should make a date.
should do it, yes. I'd like to.
Anyone have any questions?
Congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
I know, that is great.
It's nice to have an alternative for students who really have an interest in a vocational education, and quality of Whittier is just great.
Yeah.
We're very happy to have our children choose that option.
Are you aware of how I am your representative to Whittier? Are you
Well,
aware
they
of
probably
that process?
don't know much about
These-
that.
these-
I wrote a little bit about it, Joanne, but
Basically, there is a difference between an elected school committee member and an appointed school committee member. And they do vary from vocational school to vocational school. In our case, in this region, we are appointed members. So therefore, I don't run for office, you appoint me. And each year, we are appointed for 3-year terms, and it's staggered across. We have 14 members on our school committee, varying from all of the different communities. Each community has 1 member, excluding the 3 cities who have 2 members. So we are staggered. There are so many that are every year, and this is my year, and I've been on the committee now. I think this is my 3rd full term that I'm
yeah.
completing, and I started as a partial and came in for somebody else, and so I've been there about 11, almost 11 years. And so what happens is that once a month, just as you people have a monthly meeting, we have a monthly meeting, and it's on cable news, and Bill has appeared in the Georgetown cable interview community news
With Beverly, you know, a
with
few
Beverly
times, yeah.
to keep the Georgetown community up on what's going on as we're appearing tonight. And we usually try to come once a year to allow you to meet me and meet the superintendent and answer any of the questions that you might have about what's going on as far as your students, as well as what we do there at Whittier. And I've been very proud to be your representative for all of
and
these
your term
years.
is up in June, correct?
March.
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 So I think generally what we do is we notify the community that the position is open, and then Joanne, if she's interested, she puts a letter in as well as anybody else, and then it would be the decision of the committee to determine that who you would select. We haven't really had much competition for the position. Yes,
Yes.
because
Oh, you guys
she's your representative.
Okay. Yeah.
So would you like to continue?
Yes, I intend to resubmit my letter probably before Thanksgiving. I will do it. As this is my 4th time applying for it, I usually try to get it in early, and then this committee will probably vote in January, I would think, Carol. Or
Yeah, probably could, if it's up in March, because
Yeah.
you wouldn't want there to be a lag.
Yes.
So yes, we'll put that down on the list to do that.
So, actually, I have a friend, Joanna True, who is a brand-new school committee member at
Yes, last night was her first meeting.
Oh, good. I look forward to hearing about that. So
Yeah.
any help you would give to her would be appreciated.
Oh,
But I was just wondering if you could tell me about the direction that Whittier is going in terms of curriculum. Do you map to the Common Core? Are you going in STEM, the direction of STEM, science and technology?
Yes, and we've completed most of that process. We're getting ready. We're advancing in technology too. We're trying to go to a one-on-one technology device with iPads starting next September for freshmen and sophomores to prepare not only for what everybody in the world seems to be doing, but for the park exam as well, in case that comes down the road.
Oh.
Also, we are very proud to represent Whittier and be there. It's a very exciting vocational school, and our curriculum and our students are doing so well that we were the 3rd rated advanced school and advanced placement area, not advanced placement college, but the high level achievement
In tech schools,
in tech
out of
schools.
26 tech schools.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, who was the first? Do you know who the first?
Blackstone Valley.
Blackstone Valley. Okay, so that's far away.
And Shawsheen was after that.
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should be very proud of that. I have a couple of friends whose kids go there and they're very happy, which is nice. And like Carol said, it's nice that these kids that want to have that type of vocation, you know,
An opportunity.
has an opportunity to make sure that that's what they want to do.
In regard to Pam's question regarding the curriculum, we had a presentation last night from our curriculum coordinator, and we are at or exceeding any of the state expectations in the implementation of the Common Core in regard to where we are in meeting the needs and the requirements of the state and the federal government in all areas right now. We have completed all implementation to update in the meshing of the Common Core with what we're doing within our schools. And remember also that we happen to have 2 sides, because when you're in vocational technical education, they call it 2 sides of the house. Right. You have your vocational side where you're dealing with your trades and your expertise in training them in whatever they want to do as their future. And then we have the academics, and now we are finalizing the Common Core as it integrates into the vocational area. So we have a double header that we have to work with to make sure that we're up with everybody else.
Thank you.
What trades are there some trades that pop right to the top in terms of popularity?
The building trades are always strong. Electrical is always very, very strong. Carpentry. After that would probably be HVAC. Auto tech is strong. Culinary is always very, very strong. Health occupations has grown incredibly the past few years. Electronics, robotics is an area that continues to grow. There are some that those are the ones that are like constant, no matter what's going on with the economy, no matter, they're strong, they stay strong. Some of the others kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on what's going on and student interest.
Do they have a good track record in terms of employment? Do you know?
Our positive placement rate is 93%, has been 93% the past 3 or 4 years. And for us to have a positive placement rate, they have to go to work in an area related to the area that they took at Whittier, or go to a 2 or 4 year school or military related to the area they were trained in. And we've had about a 93% positive placement rate for our senior class.
That's great.
I think another area that is important for this committee to understand is that we also have, in our academic areas, we have advanced placement, we are involved in a college partnership as well for youngsters taking college level courses at the high school level. So we have all of the programs that you have in an academic high school beyond, as well as having the additional opportunities. And some of the students are taking advanced placement classes as almost in the old-fashioned concept called dual enrollment, where they get college credits by actually taking the high school classes. They don't take exams. The class is already approved in a partnership by a community college or another higher institution of higher ed.
Very nice. It's great.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Well,
for that.
thank you. Very nice to meet
Okay,
everybody.
thank you.
And it's an open
Both of you.
invitation. If you ever have the opportunity and you're in the area, please feel free.
We'll take
Okay,
you up on
thanks,
that
thanks,
offer.
thanks, Joanne.
Enjoy your holidays.
Yes, you too. Good. So, I wonder if we could move Chris and Heather up above Peter.
Sure.
Do you mind that, Peter? We do Peter? Do you mind if we have Heather and Chris come first? Go first? Since yours seems to be a little bit longer. It won't take, these guys will be quick enough. Because I know the rest of you are here too to help with that. So Chris, why don't we do you
As long as
first?
they have good news, I don't want the audience to get hostile.
No, there'll be no hostile audience.
No.
Okay, no worries. Hey, Chris.
How is everyone?
Good, thanks for coming out.
Doing very well.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm here to talk about our fall sports. This is something that we started last year, kind of doing a season update at the end and maybe a little bit of a sneak preview of the winter season as well. So we had a really successful fall season. We had 217 student athletes. So that's nearly half of the high school when you think about it.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah, as far as participation goes. We had 6 sports: football, cheer, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls cross country, and for the first time in school history is hosting a golf team. So that was really exciting to get that up and going with
Chris and I went to the banquet.
Yeah.
Those kids were so grateful. They were so grateful. We the two of us they just could not thank us enough.
That's nice.
And it was great.
And you think it'll be able to sustain itself?
We think so. There was about 7 seniors out of the 17
Okay.
athletes. So
But there were a lot of kids though on the team. The club, instead of like many golf teams, they'll only allow 5 kids or 6 kids. This club allowed.
Right, I remember
they
talking about
allowed
that, which has
everybody
been
who wanted to
great.
participate
No
to
doubt.
have some access to the facility, and
Blackstone was very generous.
they were very generous.
And we'll continue that partnership hopefully with
We
them?
hope so.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
So that was really good. We had our first captain's workshop ever, and that was in large part thanks to a donation from the Packy Thompson Memorial Fund. They do a bike rally every year, and the proceeds all go to Georgetown Athletics. And the idea is it's supposed to be something that benefits all of our students. And we thought a leadership workshop for our captains would really help all of our student athletes. Those that are the leaders, they got to really understand their roles and responsibilities and a little bit on how to lead. And it also trickles down to the younger kids. So it was a really, really good opportunity. And I participated in the workshop, and I learned some things too. So it was a lot of fun.
Now, was that on a weekend,
It was during a school day.
during a school
It
day?
was, yeah.
And so did a bus take them?
No, it was on site.
Oh,
So
they
it was in a
came
small
right out
gym.
to
Yeah.
us. That's nice.
Absolutely, yeah. It was through core leadership training. They do a lot of the work with our peer mentors as well.
Nice.
And they're great. And then sort of sport by sport. So as Ryan mentioned, football is still running. They have 2 games left right now, and they're in pool play for the MIA tournament. So it's a brand new football format, and they're sort of working the kinks out. But it's worked out pretty well for us. Once we got into the pool play, we've won our 2 games. So we beat Shawsheen and Greater Lowell. We're going to be playing Greater Lawrence this Saturday at 10:30 at Greater Lawrence. And we actually played them earlier in the season and lost, so it'll be a really good chance to see how far we've come over the season, because I think we've come a long way. And then the big Thanksgiving game that Ryan mentioned is going to be home at 10 a.m. So I hope everyone comes out.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, Thanksgiving Day. Nothing better than football on Thanksgiving.
And turkey.
Yeah. Field hockey had a successful season. They had 2 All-Stars, Nicola Cass and Emily Muscus. They also had, last year we started a program called Athlete of the Month, which was sponsored by Crown Trophy, who does a lot of our trophy work. And they basically allow us to have 2 Athletes of the Month. So our first one was Catherine Caraglia for September. I believe, Ryan, you got one last year, didn't you?
Yep, in May.
Yeah, for his hurdling. So that was a really nice thing. And they received the Baker Division Sportsmanship Award for the Cape Ann League. The Cape Ann League used to be Division I and Division II. Now it's Division I is called the Kinney Division after Sherm Kinney of Hamilton Wenham. And the Baker Division is named after Dick Baker, who was the Cape Ann League president for many, many years. And it now is a really strong presence at the MIA, so they decided to name the divisions after that. So if you ever hear the Baker or the Kinney, it's just Division I, Division II.
Okay.
So they got the Sportsmanship Award, and we love Sportsmanship Awards. It really, all the teams vote on that, and that's a really great award to get. We resurrected our middle school program. We didn't have a middle school field hockey team for the last few years. They had been playing up as freshmen or JVs, and it just didn't really make a lot of sense to have those younger kids playing against much older kids. And we thought that if we get 6th and 7th graders involved younger, it might help our program numbers grow. So having the middle school program was a big success. We had about 14 kids with Heidi Began taking over.
Heidi's awesome.
Yeah, she
she really motivates
Yeah.
those kids. I watched several of the games. I was very impressed.
We also, at the end of the season, had a student-faculty game.
I heard about that.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. The kids had a lot of fun. Mr. Lucia had a lot of fun. Yes.
Did he come out of it unscathed?
Oh, you have to ask him.
I missed an open net.
Peter's a hockey player, so this is not a long way off his alley.
It's unnatural only using one side of the
I know, Peter. I know.
But I thought it was just a great way to end their season.
That
and
is, that's a
we
fun
all
one.
had a lot of fun with that. Cross country really had one of its most successful seasons to date. Tons of personal bests, win at both the boys and girls levels. We haven't had a girls win in a long time, so that was really neat. They did win a Baker Division Sportsmanship Award, and they had an Athlete of the Month, Cam Durkee. They also were nominated for an MIA Sportsmanship Award, so that's at the state level, and we'll see if that happens or not. But I thought, usually I'll nominate one team a year, and I just thought that they were so good, just how they treat each other and everyone else. So very impressed. As Ryan mentioned, Tom Mulligan did qualify for all states. So at the state meet last week, he posted a very good time, and he qualified, and that's going to be out in Gardner, or a Gardner Municipal Golf Course on Saturday. And our team as a whole, the boys finished 13th out of 34, so that was a really good
That
showing.
program has really grown. Really grown. Like, I know when I came here, that it was they'd have any girls or one or two at
Yeah.
the most, and really, maybe 8 or 9, 10 kids maybe in the boys program, and now they've got a lot of kids.
Yeah, and it was really nice. Carol bent over backwards to let us run our last meet
That's nice.
out the old Pembroke course, because now we're going to need to kind of create a new course next year.
Yeah. Well, there were a number of seniors on the team. It was the last time that course was going to be used. It was just a few extra days, and they were very understanding. And they were willing to work with us. So I was very happy about that.
Chris, how many qualify for the All-State? Do you know?
For the actual, how many Georgetown kids or how many overall?
Overall.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Yeah, I know Tom's qualified for 2 years in a row now,
Right, I thought
and he was the
last year
first
too,
one
right?
ever to qualify from Georgetown last year.
Difficult to-
Because it's
Wow.
It's elite.
I guess I just wanted to try to explain a little to the public how that's really pretty.
It is
impressive.
elite, yes, absolutely, but I'm not sure the exact number.
Good for Tom.
Yes.
So we talked about golf a little bit. So it did enjoy its inaugural season as a Georgetown hosted sport. We had been in a Pawtucket co-op, and it was really good because with the Pawtucket co-op, we'd be lucky if we got 3 or 4 golfers on there. And this year, all 8 of our starting golfers were from Georgetown. We had 17 overall. Basically, what Coach did was he had a top 6, and then he rotated everyone else through the last 2. So everyone got a shot at playing in a varsity match, which was a really cool thing.
And they all got jackets, as you
Yep.
see Chris is modeling.
Nice.
Yes, very nice.
We did have 2 league all-stars, Kevin Turbin and Kyle Nelson. And Kyle Nelson actually qualified for the state tournament, too, so he had a really great season. But it's one of those fun sports where there's an individualistic component, but there's also a team component, so it's a neat one.
So where will the state tournament be held?
That already happened.
Oh, where was that?
It was in Bradford Country Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty
local.
close. Yeah. Girls soccer, as Ryan mentioned, had a really solid season. They played in the D4 North Finals as the regional final. They came up a little bit short, but I think we all agree they exceeded expectations coming into the season, so they really did a great job. They did have an all-league player, Jennifer Migliaccio. They had 2 league all-stars, Jensina Moner and Isabel Harker. And they also have a athlete of the month, and I'm not sure if she knows this or not, but if she's watching, Johanna Kassan is the October athlete of the month. Boys soccer also had a successful season. Similar qualified for the state tournament and won the Division IV North title. So that's a regional title, which means they get a trophy and a banner in the gym.
Get
so,
another banner.
Oh yeah. So at the end of the year, we'll do
They'll need a
another
bigger
banner
gym.
raising. They had 2 all-league players, Jared Warren and Patrick Slack. They had 2 league all-stars, Justin McCray and Ben Nelk. Tim Quinn also received the October Athlete of the Month, so he's watching. And then Coach Matt Watt was named Coach of the Year for the Baker Division. So they had a really strong season. And last but certainly not least is cheer. Cheer is still going. They qualified for fall regionals for the first time in recent history. And they finished third at Cal's. They actually tied for second with Ipswich, but they lost the tiebreaker, which is on one of the individual components. But they basically tied one of the best programs around. So that was
Yeah, I
really,
think it
really
was
good.
Amesbury, right?
Cheer is not
Was it
what.
Amesbury?
Well,
many of
Amesbury, I
us
think
remember
Amesbury won,
about
and then Ipswich
cheerleading.
was second.
Very different.
Within the Baker.
The competition that these girls prepare for is very rigorous. It's not like maybe the cheering that we might remember.
It's
Oh,
amazing
no,
when-
it's
yeah.
not. It's a sport.
It's
It
a
absolutely
sport.
It's a sport. I had the pleasure of going to the one at Masco, and I was so impressed with the girls, just in comparison to all the teams were unbelievable what they could do, but our girls were so poised, and then the football players came out with their
Yeah, the kids are
roses,
great.
and it was so nice to see them show support for the girls, because the girls are showing support for them. So it was really nice
Yeah, it's
to
great.
see that.
And Coach Wood works really hard with
Yeah,
them every day.
she's very,
Yeah, that's
very dedicated.
Yeah, it was
So
great.
they moved on to regionals, which is going to be Sunday. We still don't have our mat time, so we're still waiting on that. But that will be out as soon as we get it.
I have it on my calendar.
Yeah. And they had
It's an all-day event.
yeah, we think it's going to be somewhere between 10 and 11 in the morning. So
Do they just do one, Chris?
They just do one,
Okay.
and then they wait to see how they did, and then.
Okay.
And I think they're pretty optimistic that they're going to qualify for
Good.
the next
Oh,
level.
that's
So.
great.
But we'll see. And they did also have an all-league bid with Bridget Edwards. And then just a couple of sports for the winter. We do have a new wrestling coach, Ryan Archambault. So
I know. The other guy left. He
Like
was,
Harley
he was
did resign,
awesome.
and he's great.
But
And-
he had to resign because he had family obligations. But he was a fantastic coach. I loved the way he worked with the kids, because I used to practice in Pearlie. So I'm in my office and I'm hearing, and I could go down and chat with the kids, and it was wonderful having them there. But I was just so impressed with how he was as a coach. He's down there wrestling with the kids. He's just a real coach. Not only was he a role model, but he really was an encouraging coach, but he had high standards and expectations.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for the time. He really built that wrestling program up. Again, when I came here, they didn't have wrestlers for it. The half of the categories they couldn't compete in because they didn't have a wrestler in that weight class, and that doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen now.
Oh, that's great.
So Ryan has big shoes to fill, and
Yes,
we
he
think he's
does.
going to do them well.
Ryan's
he
at
actu-
Georgetown.
Yeah, he's a
Graduate.
Georgetown
Yep.
alum. He basically started up the youth wrestling program in town with other towns, and so he's really involved, and
He's definitely qualified.
we think he's going to be good.
That'd be great.
We also have a new co-op that we've joined with Triton in Newburyport for swim and dive. So we have five. Yeah. So we have 5 members going over there. That's an exciting opportunity. It's going to be at the
Swim
Newburyport
and dive.
YWCA.
Swim and diving.
So 5 Georgetown?
Yep. And I know one of them is going to be named captain. I don't know if it's public or not, so I'm not going to say it here.
Yeah.
Does that
Wow,
potentially
that's
go
great.
the same route as it went with Ipswich?
It
where
could.
They have
It
their,
could.
Yeah, so and that's the good thing about co-ops is it gives kids opportunities that weren't there.
Right.
The bad thing is over time, if they become too successful, you lose that opportunity. So in the MIA's perspective, if hopefully Triton, Newburyport, and Georgetown each grow, and then eventually each have their own separate swim programs. Will that happen? I don't know. That's the tough thing. But it's it's a trial basis, and we're going to see how it goes. And Triton's,
It's an opportunity.
Yeah, that's great.
It's an opportunity.
it was nice enough for Triton to reach out to us to bring us in. So.
Definitely.
And we do have basketball, boys and girls, starting up after Thanksgiving on that first week, and cheerleading for the winter will be starting up on that first week after Thanksgiving. So
And how are the numbers for those?
we had our sign-ups actually on the same night as one of the state tournament games, so the sign-up wasn't as well attended as normal. I wasn't there because
I wasn't either.
I was at the state tournament game. But they are trickling in. It looks like because the schools are now under one principal, we're going to be able to use 8th grade girls to play freshman basketball. So it looks like we're going to have a team again, which we didn't have for the last couple of years.
And how does the boys freshman team look?
They actually have a lot of freshmen signed up, and there I think there will be some spots for 8th graders, but I don't know if every 8th grader will make the freshman or not. But then there still will be the middle school opportunity, so that'll be really
But
good.
an 8th grader wouldn't make it if you had enough freshmen.
Of course not. No, yeah, you can't cut a high schooler for a middle schooler. That's pretty clear in our policy.
I thought so, yeah.
The question I have on that is, say, so when they sign up as like a 9th grader,
Yep.
do they have to specify that they want to try out for freshmen, or did they say, or do you make the determination, okay, they're good enough for JV?
Right.
that
So
what happens?
generally, what they do is the first week is a tryouts of all high schoolers, and then they make the teams from that. So freshmen would be eligible for varsity or JV.
Okay.
So if you had a freshman that was talented enough, absolutely they could make the varsity. But there's time to work that out. It's about 2 weeks before the first games.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that you have good numbers.
Yeah, our
That's
numbers were
nice.
very good for the fall, and they look positive so far for the winter.
Good.
Chris, are there any opportunities with Whittier that was just here? I was just thinking with track.
I did reach out to them.
They often have enough kids to
I was going to
run
say,
their
with
team.
all those towns.
I've reached
they
out to
must.
pretty much every school in the region that could
Yeah.
conceivably host us.
Even some Catholic schools. I mean,
Absolutely.
Really?
Chris is not giving up, but we're.
Do we have enough to have our own team?
I don't think so.
No.
And Ryan can attest to that as a
Yeah.
track athlete.
Well, I'm still grandfathered into Ipswich, so I do winter track, and there are only 2 other people from Georgetown who are being grandfathered in and also going there. So
This is for indoor.
this is for indoor, yeah, and it's the same situation for outdoor. We're being grandfathered in, but I think after my year, there's only 1 other year that will be grandfathered in, and no Georgetown students after that will be involved with the track program unless.
But I
a
guess
new
so. When
program
Ryan was
is
on the team, we only had about 5 or 6 Georgetown athletes in the winter, and maybe 10 to 12 in the spring.
Exactly.
Which isn't enough for a
Right.
team.
Yep.
And we've definitely reached out to see how many kids would be interested if we could get a co-op, and it's around those numbers. So,
Around those numbers.
yeah. So hosting would be the only way we could host is if we drew another school in.
Right.
And you don't have a great facility. I mean, you can
Right.
run a track program without a formal track, but it's less than desirable. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, plenty
We're
of
working on.
plenty of schools who have indoor track teams do not actually have an indoor
No,
track.
I think Ipswich is the only school in the league that has a legitimate track.
Definitely.
Indoor.
Yeah, so they always have to come to us.
Uh-huh.
Even then, it's in the cafeteria, so it's not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
that legitimate.
Well, I appreciate your persistence, though, in trying to see if someone will partner up with us. You're always so good about going to things, I gotta say that. You're like,
Yes.
when
you
I
need
when,
to say that.
when I said I wasn't coming to the sign-ups, and I said I'm going to the girls, the cheer, and you're like, well, I'm going to soccer, I couldn't go to both.
I
and
know.
I know you so want to be at like everything you can,
Yes.
so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I wish I had a twin.
Yes. A clone, right.
That's nice.
Thank you,
All right,
Chris,
thank you,
very
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Heather, come on up.
Bring my treats.
Yes, bring your treats.
Oh,
Do
my
the
goodness.
parfaits.
Yes, did you try
Yeah,
one?
yeah, they're so good.
That's
They're really
what I like
good.
to hear. Good.
So I don't know whether.
So do you want to just, how do you want to do it? Do you want to
Do you
pass them out?
Someone to help serve?
Yeah. If you just pass them around,
Yeah, I can
and then
pass
there's
them
enough for, looks like enough for the audience as
There
well?
should be. I did a quick count. I think that I brought 20 of each item, so I don't know if there's going to be quite enough. And
We'll share.
it's going to be a little interactive because I didn't want the granola to get soggy for the parfaits. so you're
okay.
going
How do you do it? Are you gonna
Either that or
I am a texture
you can
person, so
self-serve,
thank you for
yeah.
that.
There you go. All right.
That looks
So I brought a sample of an item that we've already started to menu, and an item that I'm seriously considering menuing, given the popularity. So I have cinnamon roasted chickpeas.
Thank you.
Sounds really exciting. Do you mind passing these down? I tried the chickpeas?
Yeah, I like it.
You did? Are you laughing?
No, I'm completely serious.
Good.
Yeah.
Another thing I like to hear.
This I really want to try.
That's what I had for dinner was yogurt and some.
Oh, really? What is that?
The brown ones? They look like Cocoa Puffs, but they are actually cinnamon roasted chickpeas. So they're sweetened.
Cinnamon
I made them. It was my first experience with the oven in the cafeteria, so bear with me.
I have
It was
not,
pretty
but I have
frightening.
to tell you- I have to tell you a story about those. One day I walked into the high school for a meeting and I said, "Who is making apple pie?" So I followed the smell and it was in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
They roasting
Okay.
these
Pass that
chickpeas.
Okay.
So they smelled like apple pie.
It smelled like apple pie. The whole place smelled like somebody was baking apple pie.
That's interesting.
Well, very interesting.
Oh, spoons.
I think my son would like those.
You don't need spoons.
Well, we can.
Oh, we have one. We have some. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. How about some chickpeas back there?
I'm passing them out
Okay,
right
thank you,
now.
This
Joan.
is nice. We should have this all the time.
You need to invite her back.
What is this? This is some type of jelly.
Oh, yeah.
No,
No, I don't know if it's exactly jelly, is it?
Yeah, it's good though.
All right.
Pretty good.
And it might be like that.
Peter, this is gonna be a hard act to follow.
Yeah, really?
Chocolate next time, Peter.
I know, what do you have?
I know, now every time I come, you're going to be expecting treats. I'm going to bring
No,
them
we
every
won't
time.
expect them.
This is wonderful.
Okay. So yeah.
This is really good.
Which one? The
Can we put the
parfait?
chickpeas
Yeah.
in the,
Oh, you can if you
Very
want.
good.
Yeah, why not?
that's what I do, I mix everything all together.
Okay. That's clever. I didn't think about that.
Everything in the kitchen sink.
So
Beth missed.
the parfait is something that just came, I mean, other schools do the parfait, and one of the things that I hear a lot from students and parents is vegetarian options. So what do you have on for alternates that are vegetarian friendly? And this is a good option. It's grab and go, it's quick, cold, has everything. It is a reimbursable meal, high in protein, high in calcium, full fruit serving, and a full serving of grain. And the granola is nut free. I did my first taste testing at the high school of this item, and I could not keep up with the volume. I was running back into the kitchen, like scooping yogurt, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
So how big would they receive it? Is it like the McDonald's parfait? Like,
Yes, actually, it would be comparable size. So, in order to qualify as a reimbursable meal, we need to have 2 ounces of meat alternate equivalents. And interestingly enough, yogurt, you have to have 8 ounces of yogurt for it to count as 2, what I call MMAs. And then you have to have 4 ounces of fruit, so to be a half cup equivalent. So that would be right there, 12 ounces. And then we have these beautiful dome lids. I wish I had brought a full-size sample because they're really quite attractive, the presentation. And the granola, we have to put it in a half cup because it weighs only 2 ounces when you weigh it out.
okay.
So it's really quite a substantial meal. And we had one, the cook manager at the school and I both had a full-size one, and we couldn't finish it because it was a lot of food. And then the chickpeas, I added, because as many of you know, and I put in my little blurb, we have new federal nutrition requirements that we have to abide by in order to continue to receive funding from the federal government. So included among those recommendations, or not recommendations, but requirements, is vegetable subgroups. So we have to offer a certain amount of different colors and varieties of vegetables in order to get our funding. So one of those things is beans, peas / legumes. So this is my sort of approach to making one of the less popular vegetable items a little bit more appealing. Something that I saw done in Vermont, and there was a little hesitation among my staff as to whether it would be popular, but we went through a lot more than I thought we would. So
I can see why.
yeah, I hope they came out all right. I was like really nervous that I broke them. Okay, good.
Oh, no.
2 1 seconds.
That little container's not gonna fill Ryan up.
Okay. Fortunately, we have spares.
That's great. Very nice.
So,
Go ahead, why don't you just kind of, they read it, but just kind of walk them through some of the highlights and.
okay. So the biggest piece of news I have is that as of last week, I submitted all of the paperwork required to receive 6th Sense certification. So that is a huge, huge barrier, and it's something that hadn't been completed, and it's mandated. In order to continue to receive funding from the state, we needed to demonstrate compliance that our menus met certain set and established criteria for calorie range, saturated fat, percentage of saturated fat, or calories from saturated fat, minimum number of grains, minimum number of proteins, and the vegetables, which actually was the easiest part for me to figure out. So that's all submitted. I've been talking with a representative at the State Department to push those through. Poor Joan and Carol have been getting notifications. This has
No
been
worries. All
deferred.
good.
This has been submitted. Because there's been a little bit of back and forth, but shortly we should be receiving notification that we are eligible to receive additional funding. which would translate to, I believe I did the math, a significant amount extra per month for us.
That's great. It really is.
So in order to support that documentation, I've started the process of cataloging all of the nutritional information for the foods that we offer, which is just as easy as it sounds. I've started this, like, several binders and spreadsheets, trying to keep it all straight. And in addition to having this documentation just as a best practice, one of my long-term goals is to just increase transparency among the community so that parents and students and staff can make educated decisions about the foods that they choose to eat in the school district. So that's one of my long-term goals. Like, updating our web presence, really working on targeted marketing to get nutrition promotion messages out there, and try and strengthen the program in as many ways as I can.
Heather is also going to be one of the leaders of the Wellness Committee.
Yes.
Great.
So Heather and Mary Beth Doherty, who is our high school nurse, have offered to co-chair that committee, you know, so that's something that's one of our goals
Never first
that
meeting next
we
week.
have, and so we're going to have a little strategy meeting coming up, and we hope to start scheduling meetings and begin recruiting people that might want to serve, establishing the work plan for the year in terms of goals, and I'm very excited about that.
I am too. I know when I first started on the Health and Wellness Committee, there was 20 people on that committee. And it was very well attended.
Good.
I would just love to see that type of participation again. I just
Yep.
don't know how we could.
Now, who's open, I mean, who can participate on that committee?
Well, that's, I think, the part of the discussion that we're going to have, just in terms of how do we want to open it up, how, you know, who do we know in-house that we want to participate, given whatever the work plan is for the year, and then, you know, what are we missing in terms of, you know, do we want somebody from the medical community to be on it, you know, depending on, you know, what we're looking
What
for.
about parents?
And parents as well.
Absolutely.
That's the
Yeah, I
parents
came
have
in just
actually,
as a parent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any parents who
Yeah.
are interested and
Yep.
feel they have.
you know, helping
to contribute
so
or-
part of that work of that group is also to plan activities or you know, sessions
Fairs,
for fairs and that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of energy, you know, on the part of both Mary Beth and Heather to do this. Joan wants to participate in it. I certainly will stay involved with it. So I think there's a lot of great things to look forward to, and I appreciate Heather in her
Yeah.
first year being willing to sort of step up and do that, on top of everything else that she's, you know, got on her plate. But we're gonna have Heather. I think we've got you scheduled to come back again at another point in the year. So, you know, on a regular basis, you know, she can just keep you updated.
I would have
on
to,
what's
especially
going
in
on.
my first year here. I feel like I will have a lot of updates, so I'm
Yeah.
thankful for the opportunity to be able to present my progress to everybody.
Now, can you tell me how the program's going? Like, what are the numbers looking like at all the schools?
At all the schools. So at the high school especially, we've had some challenges with new staffing. About half of our staff is new, including myself and the cook manager. So there has been a lot of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tuckman's theory of group development, but
Teppan's feeling, the theorist.
forming, storming, norming, and then performing. So we went through a lot of.
That sounds scary.
Yeah, the storming part is really the part that's the most
it does sound
challenging.
scary, but it's not.
But I'm happy to say that we're in the process of getting to the norming phase. So that is
Norming isn't far away.
not far away. No,
You'll
we're
get
doing
there.
it.
You'll get there. Have faith.
We will.
Cooks in the kitchen.
We keep telling the same thing. Cafe, keep going. You're doing well.
Right, and so we did have some quirks in the kitchen as far as production, getting things out on time, and I think that a lot of that affected our numbers for the first couple of months. But for me, I was actually not super disappointed by the numbers. We had like a 30, I believe it was about 30 lunches per day decrease for the month of October from last year's, which I was expecting to be higher, to be honest. So I'm not too disappointed in that. And I'm hoping that with some of the marketing that I'm implementing and some changes to the web design, as well as some advertising around the school, we can get those numbers back up.
And you're doing more from scratch cooking too. so
Right, and we're
that's-
trying to do more creative things, so it's not just, you know,
Pizza.
Also,
Yeah.
you know, some of the new healthier requirements are not being well received by high school students. I read in
Across
Newbury
the board.
Report, across
Yeah.
the board, their
Yeah.
sales are down.
Yeah, I hear that from
Well, the
superintendents all over.
portions are limited. You
Yeah.
have to limit the portion sizes,
Mhm.
and that's tough for some kids that look like him and want to eat.
right, and it's hard to convince. What we're going to try and do as well is one thing that's really important to me is getting more kids to be interested in the hot meal item, and that is really challenging. And one of the changes we made was to have the hot meal served on both sides, so there's increased visibility with what we're actually cooking. And well, I mean, we're preparing the other foods, but like the hot meal item. And one thing that we're considering doing is creating a show plate so that students can actually see this is the complete meal, this is what you have option of getting as you come through the line, because they know that they can only take, if they want to, they can just take the entree and a milk and go through and that's their lunch, that's what they're paying for. But we offer so much more to be a complete meal. It's really about, I don't want to call it educating the kids, but really just making them aware that they have options in the lunch line so that they can make good choices and hopefully be more enthusiastic about them. And we got rid of the vegetable tray.
But you put vegetables
We
in
put
there.
them in cups, so there's
Yeah.
no longer the weird
She didn't get rid of the
vegetable
vegetables, she just
No,
got-
no, no, there's more vegetables,
It's a different,
if anything.
it's a
It's
different
She said-
presentation.
She said more
Yeah.
kids, more kids are taking advantage of it.
tray. Yes,
Yes.
we're going
Yes,
through
yeah.
more vegetables
The
actually.
cucumber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like those.
And so how does Pembroke and Pearlie look?
Comparable. I think it was only a 3 lunch decrease for last month at Pearlie, and then Pembroke. I'm not sure the numbers on Pembroke.
I thought the numbers were quite similar to last
They
year.
were pretty similar.
It was
and
the high school where we noticed a difference.
The high school was the biggest difference, yeah.
Okay.
We also
I
started-
have to ask this question. So, what are the vegetables at the high school that you're
What do we
talking
offer?
about? What are they? I don't have a high
They're-
school student. What are
Oh,
you?
okay.
Are you talking about raw, fresh
Yes.
vegetables?
Yes.
Raw
But
fresh.
why don't those get offered at Pembroke, or do they?
They do get offered at Pembroke. They have trays with little cups that are pre-portioned.
With
and
raw vegetables?
Yep, raw
Carrots
vegetables.
and cucumbers.
They're
How come?
not very well
Displayed.
advertised. It's very dark sort of
Yeah.
kitchen, and there's
That-
not a lot of wall space for, I mean, I haven't gotten there yet, but there's definitely room for improvement as far as the raw vegetable bar goes.
I'm going to just tell you, if my daughter knew there were raw vegetables available,
She would take 'em.
she would take them. She doesn't know they're there.
And that might be something as easy as just moving them to the line so that when she goes in, it's easily visible. There don't need to be, like on your portion cups, there were lids. And I'm sure that you can, like when you saw the chickpeas in there, you're probably like, what is that? They're probably having a similar experience, just not being able to see what's being offered. So sometimes it's just simple fixes like that can boost participation.
Well, they're probably all busy talking to their friends. and-
I want
But
milk.
it isn't,
Yeah.
it isn't a very easy kitchen to deal with, because
No, it
it's
isn't.
very, once you go in, it's very compact. You know, that's one of the things we deliberately avoided in the new school. You know,
Well,
that
and that could
there's
also be for
multiple
kids
stalls.
who have the space, like
Yeah,
they
it's
feel
very-
pressured
Yeah.
and they can't take
And
everything.
they really
in
can't
at
see
once.
in, so maybe putting display trays there on the top too, so they can
see what
see.
the options are, so that they know what to ask.
That's another
Or
idea.
signs or something to just brighten it up in general.
Yeah.
I have to say, at the high school, I have 3 boys, and 2 out of 3 of them, I'll be honest, one of them is just very picky, and I don't know if you'll ever impress
Win
him,
him
but the
over.
other 2 are very impressed. They say things are very different, and, you know, my youngest son has said, Mom, it's like it's homemade food, it's like it's actually cooked, and he never ate anything at all at the cafeteria last year. So, and, you know, my boys are very impressed.
I agree.
You agree?
Ah, there we
It's
go.
nice to
Hearing
find
from
I know.
from a
I was gonna say
student,
more.
that's,
Yay.
Yeah.
and what have you noticed, Ryan?
I mean, like all the students just talk about like, oh, how do you like the new food this year? And I'd say for the most part, it's all positive. Some people are still getting like adjusted to change,
Right.
like buffalo mac and cheese.
Right.
Is kind of out there compared to compared to the options we had before. But you
Yeah.
can still have regular mac and cheese. But we definitely have a lot more creative options. So it's always nice to go into the cafeteria and be like, oh wow, we've never had that before. And then there are a lot of options with the vegetables, and a lot of the things of the past are still there too, which is good. So I really support, I really like a lot of the changes that have been happening.
Great.
It's
So
really
one of
good.
the things we did talk about, and we talked about it for years, is figuring out a way to get more information from the students, you know, whether it be, you know, through a suggestion box or a quick little survey, or
Student interest
focus groups, you know.
I would
with-
love to come to one of your student council meetings.
Oh, definitely. We could like talk about that.
Okay, that sounds great.
Bring
Next
treats.
Monday.
If you bring treats.
It'd be nice to have an online suggestion box too, you know, at some point.
Absolutely, and part of my adventures with updating the web presence, it will include somehow figuring out how to do that on our website.
Great. Great.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank
Can I
you.
just can I ask you just a quick question about the middle high school?
Yes, ma'am.
So when people have like money on their account, and you know, you pay, there are certain things that are not allowed to come off that account.
Correct.
Can you just tell me why that is?
Because it would encourage children so for example, we have we have a lot of snack items, and if we were to allow students to charge on account, then they would be able to use funds that their parents might have intended them to use for lunches for things that are not necessarily a complete meal. Yeah. So, for example, if you provided $9 for 3 lunches for your child, and they went through the line and had access to say A-list cupcakes or A-list Chex Mix, they could go through all of their lunch money on snacks instead of their meals.
The only problem with that is I give them money and then I give them a check and then I end up giving them
Money
for
cash
snacks.
too.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm just like, I wish it would just come off.
But I think that
I
makes
totally
sense.
get what you're
That
saying.
makes a lot
I
of
just,
sense.
I guess I don't
Makes
understand
sense.
why they're there then.
Right.
The
And
snacks.
Yeah.
I feel the same way sometimes.
Well, I raised that issue with the
Yeah.
wellness committee years ago, so I
Maybe
feel
it
the
should
same
come up
way.
again.
That's an issue
But-
that the
and I'm
yeah.
totally
wellness
open to
can address.
suggestions on ways to make
Yeah,
it easier
I mean,
for both parents
to be
and
honest with you,
students.
the
about
reason
waters?
that never went away is
That's
because
charged
that
to
was
account.
that was a
It was a
revenue
revenue.
source.
Okay. So
But-
waters can be
But
charged.
But then
It can be
also
charged
you've
to
got,
account.
you know, big boys too who may not have enough to eat just at the meals, who might want to eat, you know, who can fully capable of eating everything. A meal, 2 plus snacks.
4 lunches. We have
lunches.
one kid that comes through, gets 4 lunches
4
every day.
lunches.
Yeah.
Some of the football players, like before football games, will just like keep
Seventh
going
grader,
back.
actually,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Oh dear.
Well, thank you
Oh,
very
thank you,
much. You're doing
Heather.
a great job and,
Yeah.
you know, welcome. Again, I know we talked before, but I
Thank
look
you.
forward to talking more at the wellness. So we're just gonna have a smaller meeting of the Health and Wellness Committee and then,
To strategize
Right.
the rest of the year,
Brainstorm.
and
Exactly.
inviting everybody and see how we can bring
Yeah.
in everybody and reach out
Get started
be
with this
great.
meeting.
to anyone who's interested.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather, and thank
Yeah.
you for bringing the treats.
No problem. There's
Thank you so
leftovers. I will leave them for you, especially. I'll take them off because I don't want to
Yeah.
disturb. Because Peter's up next, right?
Peter's up next.
Don't want to tempt him with my treats. Yeah. Delicious, delicious.
Joan, grab me some chickpeas. I like those chickpeas. Those are
Good, I think I may try to pick them myself.
I thought those were very different.
Oh, different.
And I think you could probably make them savory. I think you could make them savory too, if you didn't want to make them sweet. Like by putting
There are
herbs
places
on
in
them.
the world where when you go into a bar, you get served chickpeas
Really?
as a snack, as opposed to the kinds of things you would
That
get in a
is a
bar
good
here,
idea.
like pretzels or peanuts, or you get chickpeas.
I've never
Some of
ever
those
heard of them.
bars.
It's Lebanese, right? Chickpeas?
They're garbanzo beans.
Yeah.
I make them with the spicy. She told me how to make them spicy.
Yeah.
And I have them for a snack.
So they have a lot of protein. Make them sweet. Right?
They have a lot of protein and fiber.
Protein and fiber, yeah.
Something we should all use.
I ate them plain, but this is way better.
Okay, where's?
I agree. Delicious. That was fun. All right, Mr. Lucia. Can you make the MCAS fun?
First thing in the ad.
Well, I have food for thought.
Oh, very clever.
Heavy duty, huh?
I just need to wait for the
Oh, do you need the screen pulled down too?
probably yes.
And would you mind doing that? Pulling the screen down?
Okay.
I'll blow off the wall. I think that'll be fun. Rob scooted over. Okay.
Get away.
Are we just waiting for it to boot up? Is that the problem?
No, I'm already connected. It's just
Not projecting.
projecting. There you go.
I see the. You can see.
Oh, yeah, you can see it. It's coming up. Yep.
You need to put
You need the lights off?
I need
No, I
the
don't
lights
see
on.
it.
There it is. Julie, could you turn the lights off, would you mind? Or someone back there? Excuse me.
I don't know how this is gonna work, but we'll do our best.
That's better.
Oh, you know what? The screen has to go up a little, I think.
Yeah, it's down.
Can you
too
put it
far.
up a little bit,
Down
Pam?
too much.
There you
There.
go.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Okay. Well, we have a special treat this year. I brought my data team,
Good for you.
and they're available for any specific content-related questions. So I sent you a pretty lengthy report, and it's not my intention to go through all of that tonight, step by step. So what I thought I would do is, first of all, talk about the process that we use. So what we do is the department heads who are here tonight with us, and I think maybe we should introduce them.
I was saying you definitely
because
introduce
maybe
them.
they never have been introduced. So we have Paula Utter in math, and Allison Vieira in English, and Cerise Cawthorn in science.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you
And
for
we
coming.
have 4 department heads: Rick Hastings in social studies, but he doesn't have an MCAS subject, so
Yet.
he gets the night off. So the department heads and the curriculum director together review the school and individual team analysis report summaries and identify questions. And we use a standard of 80% correct. So when you look at a question, if 80% of the people that took the test got it right, we consider that a strength. And if something below 80% came up, then we would consider that an area of need. So that's basically what the bar is. And over the years, we have raised that bar by 10%. So we used to use 70%. So as we are progressing with our scores, we are raising the bar and challenging ourselves. So as a department, the 3 departments sit down, and we do that in our departmentally directed time for the most part in our monthly department meetings, and they go through each question. We also do that in the middle school during team time, and actually this year we made some arrangements where all of the middle school teachers could meet by departments also, and that is most useful for this exercise. And we look at all of the questions, and we look at the types of questions, and then we determine what our strengths and needs are, which I outlined for you in the report, and then what the action plans will be to rectify or to improve upon any of our needs. So we're first going to look at math, and we're going to look by testing grade. And again, it is not my intention to go through all of it. This is just typical, so I'll just show you so the audience can see what the report looks like. We list our strengths, and again, we're using that 80% standard, and our needs. And then from our needs, we also develop our action plan. And one of the things I do want to point out that one of the subgroup that has the greatest needs of the building, we look at them individually too. Our growth in many areas will improve greatly if we can improve upon the growth of our high needs subgroup. So what I've done in the action plans, as you can see, is we have an action plan for all students, and then what else are we doing on top of that for the high needs subgroups. So this is 10th grade math, and as you can see, we want to we use practice questions a lot, and you get better at the test if you use the types of questions that we're going to be asked. We are trying to do some more work with reasoning and interpreting and estimation problems. For our high needs group, and you'll see this across the board, that we are employing language-based strategies to try to, most of our students with special needs have language-based disabilities. So we are really trying to target those disabilities and improve upon them across the school. So one of the MCAS action plans that you'll see on all of these is trying to incorporate for all teachers language-based strategies to help them in that area. So that's
Peter,
yep.
just for the benefit. So what would that look like? So what's different when you're using a language-based strategy? Is it the breaking down the individual questions? Is it?
Yeah, it can be. For example, I was in a class today where one of it's a co-taught class, a language-based class in the 8th grade, and one of the special needs teacher that was co-teaching the class took a group, the group that she felt had the greatest needs. They were preparing for a quiz tomorrow, and she was using some mnemonic devices. So she was using a song to help them remember a formula. That would be an example. Two-sided notes could be an example for that. Different graphic organizers. So they had, I forgot what they called it, but it was a graphic organizer. I don't remember the name, what it was, but things like that.
Okay.
Multimodal strategies.
Yep. Yeah, and there's
Field of
and
different
we're
types of
learning,
learners.
and we have a consultant to come in periodically to train our teachers and to monitor progress. She was in a couple days ago monitoring progress, and she was very happy with the progress that we're making there. So we are continuing to add to our arsenal of language-based strategies every day.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Peter, do you mind if I ask, how do teachers respond to being asked to do those kinds of things, to incorporate those strategies?
I think they see the need. I think they, as their comfort level increases, they become more comfortable with it. I haven't heard any pushback.
No,
I mean,
that's good to know.
I know that when you ask people to do new things, there's a period of adjustment.
Yeah.
Well, especially
So-
if it's outside of your comfort zone. I'm a math
Yep.
teacher, and you want me to teach a song to the kids.
Yeah.
Like that might seem a disconnect. I
Yeah,
just
well,
wondered
you'd
if
be
you-
surprised how often we use songs. Because I was walking through a Mandarin class, and they were singing in there too. So, but I think when we first talked about doing that, even I thought, well, geez, is that going to be a lot of work? Is it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to get into it, they're just really best practices.
Yeah.
They're things everyone should use.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like, there aren't any teachers that aren't willing to add to their, repertoire.
That's great.
So,
And the whole second standard on the educator evaluation is teaching all students. So it's giving people an opportunity to expand maybe some of their knowledge, and that helps them, as they're moving forward in their own professional practice.
It's so lovely. That's great. Thanks.
I believe this is the 8th grade. Is this the 8th grade, Paul? I skipped by too fast and afraid to go back with the PowerPoint. But I believe this is the 8th grade. So we're going to incorporate more multi-layered questions and warm-up activities and stuff like that. And we're really careful when we look at these questions. We really kind of compare them to our curriculum. And sometimes there are holes. And our curriculum is changing with the Common Core, and we are realigning our curriculum. Well, I shouldn't say realigning, aligning our curriculum with the Common Core standards. So we need to do some more work in geometry. One of the things we are doing in math that's going to help us across the district is vertical alignment. So to make sure there's a flow from K to 12. And we're doing that in all of the academic areas. Julie is spearheading that. So we are doing a lot of work in math right now, and again, you can see the language-based strategies, and number sense comes up often, just about every year that I see that.
At the elementary level as well.
Yeah, oh, that was the 8th grade, great. So this is the 7th grade, varying vocabulary and presenting concepts. Obviously, that's very important, especially when talking about trying to improve upon our open response questions. More MCAS, moving the statistics and probability unit to the 3rd quarter, because we're not hitting that, and MCAS, by the time MCAS comes around, we haven't sufficiently given them enough exposure to that. So, because traditionally we've been doing it in the 4th quarter, so we'll move it down into the 3rd quarter, so they'll be obviously get that before we take the test. Again, vertical curriculum alignment, that's across all grades, language-based strategies. And then the 6th grade, again, reviewing vocabulary units, more work with numbers, ratios, and decimals, always warm-up questions, moving geometry down into the 3rd quarter, again, so we're looking at those test questions, we're looking at where our curriculum is, what we teach when, and that is an ongoing process throughout the school. And actually the district, right, Julie, using
Yes.
Atlas?
Yeah.
Using a software program that we bought a couple years ago. So that really helps, because you can go into this program and say, oh, well we're doing geometry because we do a timeline, and we're doing geometry toward the end of the year, and that's after MCAS, and the kids aren't getting the geometry questions right. So that makes sense. And again, language-based strategies, I think, really is the key with making significant improvement with our high needs additions.
So I know you look year by year, but Paula, when you think, you've been doing this a while, so are there consistent areas that you see that, as you've worked on them, they appear every year in terms of an area that we need to work on? And have you seen improvements in some of the areas that we've been looking at? I'm looking for more historical as opposed to year by year.
Number sense.
Number sense.
Those foundational skills that have to come from elementary school, and then they feed into the higher level math classes.
Mm-hmm.
It really starts from that point, and then you build upon it. Math is very much builds upon itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have those, it starts from kindergarten counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and knowing 2 bears, 3 bears make 5 bears.
Right.
Simple as that. But that's a number sense thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just keep building and building and building upon that. If those foundational skills are not there, then when we layer in the algebra properties and then onto the geometric with the postulates and the theorems, if those foundational skills aren't there, then you kind of have to revisit those. But if you get them strong and they go deeper in terms of the rigor, because that's what Common Core is bringing back to us, is
Mhm.
rigor and being able to apply what you've learned. That's coming back more, so then it kind of went away for a little bit. So that's why the vertical team is going to be so beneficial.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
see it already, and we've only met twice.
Yeah.
I love it. So
Good,
it's
good.
I love that you love it.
Okay, science.
Thank you, Paula.
Science in the high school is very different from the other MCAS areas because they are at an end of course test as opposed to a cumulative test. So as you can see, in science, we test in biology and we test in physical science, and those are the two areas that we have chosen. There are other schools and other districts that do chemistry, so you can really choose where you want to do this. So our curriculum is geared up. Most of our kids take it in biology, and some kids take it in introductory physics.
Peter, why did you guys pick these versus some of the others?
Biology is pretty much what everyone's doing in the state. So, and I think a lot of districts use the model that we use. Biology traditionally has been taught in
Ninth grade.
grade 10, and most MCAS tests in the high school, the high stakes tests, are in the 10th grade. And it also gives us an opportunity to, we put into place a course what we call integrated science, which is the first half of the year is, for the most part, what are they doing in the first half of the year?
First half of the year is primarily chemistry. It's the foundations of chemistry that help them handle the biochemistry and pieces like that that follow in biology. Then in the second half, they start some of the biology frameworks. Those frameworks are reinforced in grade 10, and the remainder of them are taught new in grade 10. So it's almost as if you have a year and a half of biology standards with supporting chemistry to help them with those biology standards. And that would be a standard college prep, sort of 2-year course choice going through.
Some of the biology scores are in our honors biology, which is actually 9th graders. So when you look at, so just to clarify that we're looking at a subject test and it's not a grade test. So our biology numbers are 9th and 10th graders in these scores. So the answer to your question is, so we can give them a year and a half of biology, basically. Okay, so the action plan for biology is to increase direct instruction assessment in areas of vocabulary, diagram, graph interpretation, looking at multi-part questions, increase lab work and data analysis for chemistry of life and evolution of biodiversity standards. What do we do? That's for all students. For our high needs additions, provide physical manipulatives such as molecular models. See that a lot walking around the school when I pop in science classes. They're always learning about the chemistry of a molecule and putting things together. They look like, if anybody remembers Tinker Toys, that's kind of what it looks like. Using multimedia strategies, working closely with the special ed staff about the exam itself, and working with writing standards. And the other place that we test in the high school is introductory physics, and the action plan there, again, reinforced vocabulary across the curriculum. We have a concentrated effort to do that. Waves and heat, I see a lot over the years. More laboratory work in those areas. Working with diagram and graph interpretation. And I just want to just get off track for one quick second. That is something that we're seeing with all of our students. So the social studies department has identified that as a weakness in their area, even though it's not an MCAS area, and they are actually developing some assessments so they can measure growth in that area. So I think across the curriculum we need to do a better job and concentrate on having kids interpret graphs and diagrams and things like that for whatever the content that they're working in. Okay, grade 8 is the action plan here is again vocabulary instruction, graphing and diagramming again, trying to get a longer laboratory experience for them, making available the vernier probeware system for laboratory investigations, things that we use a lot in the high school, and then trying to find additional time for science content skills. And we're working right now to further develop the technology and engineering strands to make them give more exposure to students with that. Science is a little tricky right now because they're changing the frameworks. So I know it's MCAS time, but I also, budget time is right around the corner. And at some point, we're going to probably have to make a significant purchase with textbooks. We're trying to get by right now because we don't really know what the frameworks are going to be like. But when we do, we need to get on that right away. So I do want to give you guys a little heads up right now before the budget begins. Yeah.
It's like a good investment to me.
Yeah. Okay. And then finally, English. In the 10th grade, we're looking at new standards because we are aligning again with the Common Core. And we're looking into giving kids more exposure with citing evidence from texts when they're writing to support what they're writing about. And again, that is a big and very important skill that we use in social studies a lot. And we're going to concentrate with developing one's ideas beyond the literal and more instruction on why authors make the choices regarding words and structures that they use. In the 8th grade, we want to, again, and if you've noticed, we haven't mentioned improving open response a lot this year. And that's something that year after year that it's been on there for an action plan, and I think we may have gotten over the hump with that over last year because our open response scores improved significantly across the board. We spent a lot of PD doing that over the last couple years and really focused on that, and we're making great strides in that area. We're still not satisfied because we still want them to get even better. There are several team goals in the English department to move those numbers. Open response questions are a little different. We don't use that 80% bar because there's not a right and a wrong answer. There's a degree. There's a 1 to 4 scale. So we have some goals in the English department. We want to move more kids that have 2s into the 3 category and more 3s into the 4 category. And that'll really help our scores out a lot. And teachers will address the purpose of certain pieces of literature or text, to discuss a text structure, and for the high needs editions, focus on finding key ideas and details and then using them to support their arguments. And again, we would use language-based strategies to help them with that process. Grade 7, need to work on paragraph structure, elaborating on ideas, doing more editing, citations of evidence, and we're going to develop some assessments that will measure the growth of this once per quarter. For the high need subgroup, on top of that, focus on writing longer compositions, using graphic organizers and templates to help students organize their ideas. So again, those are language-based strategies to help them with their organizational skills. And then finally, the 6th grade, teachers will focus on how to draw conclusions from what the students are reading and then write about those ideas. Another thing that's really going to help and is helping is the vertical alignment. We're doing that in English also, from elementary to middle school, and to close any kinds of gaps that exist during that transitional period. And again, lots of vocabulary words and meanings of words from context. So, that's as fast as I can go for 2 schools. So, are there any questions?
It is a lot of information. I said to Carol before the meeting started, I didn't have a chance to look at this, which normally I do before the meeting, so I can figure out what questions I want to ask you. So I'm sure you'll be there if I have any questions tomorrow on it. But it is a lot of information.
It is a lot, and to be honest with you, what I gave you is the executive summary.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
much deeper than that, and that's why the team is here, and I really want to thank them. I want to
Yes.
thank Julie, and I want to thank the department heads, because they are the ones that really get very deep into these areas, and they work with the teachers to pick apart each question and to develop our action plans. So I really take my hat off to them.
And I just commend all of you. My work experience includes working with schools to bring teachers and administrators on board to do this kind of work. And I always ask the questions about resistance, because 10 years ago when I was doing that work, boy, people just were like, we are not doing this, we are not doing this, we are not doing this. And yet you can see the benefit. It just, I went to school, I got a degree, I know what I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Shut up and leave me alone.
Well,
And
things are
that's-
different now.
Things
I-
are
you
really
know, they-
different,
they
and it's
are.
really lovely. It's just really, at least they're different here in this district. It's really lovely, and I know how much work it is, and I appreciate it. As a parent in this town, I just commend you, and I appreciate all this hard work. I know how hard it is.
Thank you.
It's like a lot of time and deep analysis work has really been given to all of this, and yeah, I would just.
And a lot of
echo.
this happens outside of a school day. I think
Absolutely.
you have to say that. You have to say that. These people are not, paid additional time to work outside of the day. They take work home. They put this together, and and the results show. The results show. So thank you very, very much. Not only for being here tonight, but for all the work that you do.
And I'm glad to hear about the vertical team,
Yeah.
that's going well, because I was really excited for that when you
They're doing
mentioned it.
3 of
So
them
that's-
now.
You couldn't be happier, honestly. We're so lucky.
Yeah, that's great.
And can I just ask, are the special education teachers part of those vertical teams? Because
Yes.
a lot of your MCAS scores are just absolutely stellar and wonderful, except when you get to the high needs groups, particularly in 6th and 8th grade. Is that what
Yeah.
So, but they're all working together and communicating, and yeah, that's great.
We're doing a lot of working together with the language-based efforts. We have, special ed teachers and general ed teachers, and then on the vertical teams as well. Julie invited the special ed teachers, so we have some of them going there. So there's a lot of cross, becoming one, if you will. As Carol said earlier, all students are for all teachers now.
Wonderful, great.
And the strategic goals are all tied into this. Everything we talk about is all tied into the strategic goals. And a lot of it is mandated and dictated. We wouldn't necessarily pick the pace with which we're having to work, but at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out what the important things are, and trying to respond to what our kids need. And data analysis is a very time-consuming process, but if you don't know what your data says, then all the efforts you're putting in are maybe good, but not targeted enough, so you're really going to see the kind of results we're looking for. Yeah. So everybody's to be commended, because there isn't time built in for all of this work.
It's huge.
All of our teachers are going well above and beyond. Thank you, Peter. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Carol, just in the data analysis, I think of labs, and you send material to one lab, and
Yes.
it gets broken down. You send it to another lab, same material. You might get two different results. In the data analysis, what's the
What brings it together?
yeah?
Well, I think that ultimately we're looking at the same data, but it's a value to us with everybody looking at it together, because different people see different things in the data. If you're trying to really understand what's going on with a particular student or a group of students or a subgroup, the more people who can get together and look at, because some things people notice that other people don't notice.
Right, exactly,
Right? And
yes.
so you try to look at everything and then cull down, what are those salient points that you can take away that are going to help you take the next step.
Yep.
Everything isn't equal priority. There's an awful lot of data that in isolation doesn't stand on its own, but it's the totality of it looking at, and that's why I asked the historical information, because, Donna's been here a long time, Margaret's been here 4 years. If you start to look at data long enough, you start to see those trends. And so year by year is important because it's the same, it's kids and you can actually determine what needs to happen for individual students. But really that cohort data and the data over time is also useful.
Could that be a budget item that there's assistance provided to the analysis
For
of the
analysis
data?
of data? Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, it could be. In fact, one of the things Julie and I are working on right now is a project with a retired professor, I guess he is, from BC, a Dr. Ladd. And he has had access to grant money over the years, but he also has some of his own money that he's built up, and he believes in this work. And so he reached out to us and said he had heard about Georgetown and he was very interested in our data, and he was very interested in maybe working with us on a project that we could create with him. So one of the things we're doing is we're putting together this project with him. We will need to figure out the funding because there is a little bit that we have to put in, but he matches it. But what he does is he has a staff of people. We were looking at focusing on DDMs, particularly these district determined measures in terms of making them reliable and valid, as opposed to just creating assessments. But how can we make sure they're reliable and valid? And he would actually bring staff into the process to work with us and our teachers on that. So I think it goes to what you're saying so we're looking at that as a great possibility for a project that we could determine whether or not that's useful for the future. Yeah.
I mean, you said he heard about Georgetown, so what do you mean by that?
Well, he has approached me on a few other projects that we just haven't been able to do because,
So in the sense that our school district is unique, out other schools are not looking at data the way we are.
Yeah, he definitely has heard about the kinds of efforts we're making. He also looks at Georgetown as an interesting demographic, I think, so because it's small enough where you can actually take a project and maybe see it actually happen. It's much more difficult sometimes in very large regionals where there's a lot of things going on. So, he was intrigued, and I think he's like I said, I've talked with him extensively on other things that we couldn't, it would take us off track to do it as interesting as it was.
Sure.
So when he approached me about this issue of looking at data and could he provide some assistance perhaps, because he has a very strong opinion that the way the state's going isn't the right way. So I have to balance that, that may be true, Dr. Ladd, but we have some things we have to do. But this issue of district determined measures, he's very concerned that the state isn't paying enough attention to them being valid and reliable. That it's more a check the box, tell us what your DDMs are, and at some point his big concern is that teachers in some districts may be up against losing their job because they haven't been able to show effective growth. And his contention is that may be a liability to a district if the measures are not valid and reliable. So, so he's got an interest in that, and he knows we have an interest in that. So that's why we think we're close to getting sort of the details on what the process might be.
This is a strange question, but it'll help me in a certain way. If you have 10 units of time, and this is a question to you, but also to you folks, if you had 10 units of time available to you, and you're putting all 10 of your units into this particular exercise, how many more units would you need to be doing this the way you would hope to be doing it in a perfect world? Like, how much do you have enough time?
Oh, we never have enough time.
And I know you don't. I'm just trying to get a sense of how big this thing is. For 10 units, I could use another 50%.
Well, it's not something you do 100% of the time. You do it in fairly good chunks of time. I mean, we're always looking at data, but not, there's certain times of the year where you're really heavily focused on the data that you're collecting, and it's more summative data versus more formative data. So I think it is taking a lot more time than we ever used to take with data analysis. Would you say that's fair? I mean, it used to be there wasn't data to look at other than what the teachers were using, and maybe the schools might have some data that they might use. But mostly you were teaching programs, so it didn't really matter what the data said. You know, I mean, what I tell the principals, and I've talked about, my favorite story is how I learned that is I had to teach a section of kindergarten one year with 31 kids, and I said, well, what am I going to do with 31 kids? I've got to figure out what they know. So there was no data, that we didn't collect any data as a district. This was when I was in Greenfield. And so the Title I teacher and I picked out some assessments from the observation survey, and we administered to all the kindergarten. And 50% of them knew every letter and every sound, all the concepts about print, but guess what the curriculum was? Letter of the week. That would have been a huge waste of time for 50% of the kids. But if I didn't look at the data, I just would have taught the letter of the week curriculum. So the data is huge in terms of our ability to plan intervention groups, to know who needs a challenge, how the curriculum needs to be modified for certain kids. You know, I mean, now we're sort of in some ways on assessment overload, right? We're trying to figure out as a district what assessments are most essential. So we're creating this big assessment map. What assessments are we giving at what grades for what purpose?
I think are kids also getting the message that assessment is not about it's not about placing a judgment. I mean, because I can remember going through school, you got assessed.
Yeah.
You knew who you were.
Yeah, which group you fit in.
Yeah. Versus today, it seems like assessment, and this is what I tell my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about her. It's about telling the teacher what she needs to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree that the only reason to collect assessment data is to know is to do something with it.
But I think
to help
kids
it
need
inform
to
your
know
instruction.
that
Well, what do you think? The kids don't seem to be as anxious about assessments as they once were. I think it's an evolution.
I think it's been in the world long enough for them to understand where it is and how it works in their schools. When we first started getting the MCAS test, I remember my principal going in to have his blood pressure checked on the first MCAS. I'm not lying. And so we moved away from that into this place where we're always kind of looking at things and trying them out and figuring out where we are in the process. So
I guess what I'm saying is that I think I hear from people in the community, why do they test so much?
Yes.
And so I think that there's probably parents in the community who kind of, they have this leftover sense of, well, I got tested because and they don't want that to happen to their kids.
Yeah, they don't want their kids to be labeled.
It's just a completely different world. And the way that we look at what we teach and why we teach it and to the depth of what we teach it, it allows us to do that.
Absolutely. I just think, I'm just wondering if you feel that sense of pushback from the community that maybe we're doing too much. I mean, I understand what our goals are for doing it. I understand why you're doing it. I'm more concerned about how do.
I don't know. I think
Donna, it's not just MCAS.
Yes.
Right. And that gives us like a triangulation of data.
Yeah.
And that's really important too, because MCAS is only 1 day, 2 days.
Absolutely.
So for our third graders, that's their first experience taking MCAS.
Yeah.
And they do get anxious.
Yeah.
Because they hear about this MCAS word. And so that, that always is a challenge for our third graders. Because we don't necessarily teach them how to fill in the bubble. And we do an MCAS unit, but we don't all year long do that kind of, because it's not who we think, we should be doing with kids.
Absolutely.
So we think there's more to, what we do in learning, and deeper learning. So we try and prepare kids harder than MCAS. That's our hope and dream.
I'm not hearing that, but what we know in this work and doing it long enough is there will always be people who believe you don't do enough. Like you need to assess these kids constantly, and they have to achieve a certain score or something's wrong. And then you have people who believe, why are you testing them and making these kids crazy? Just do what you have to do. And then something in the middle is right, and that's what we're trying to find. We're trying to strike that balance.
Sure.
There's no point in giving an assessment if it's not going to drive your instruction in some way.
Right.
And there's no point in giving an assessment if it doesn't have a value.
Absolutely.
If you don't know what it's going to tell you. Like we've been talking, you're going to talk a little later about the MAP assessment, and we'll talk about how that assessment is different than what we get information for on the MCAS. But it helps us fill in our need to have the total package. So, it does take a lot more time than it used to, Rob, but if it's done and used well, and we've gotten better at it, it doesn't take us as long as it used to. It could be longer. But I think we figured out now how to look at the essential stuff. And we sort of have a protocol in place of how we look at our data every year with our teachers, and the teachers sort of know how to do it now. So I think that, if we continue to view the data as a necessary bit of information to then drive what we do next, then it's not time that's wasted. It's actually, because if what you do with it is something focused and constructive, then it's time better spent than just doing something that maybe will not have the results. But we're in a flux.
I'm not so I'm not so concerned about the results of it per se. I'm interested in hearing about the process, and also that there's it sounds like what I'm hearing is there's a sense of comfort level with you folks in terms of what you're doing with this data analysis and the workload that's required for it and the effort that's required for it, that you've found some.
Yeah, I think it gets easier and better, and we try to put our heads together and look at the data, as from the district level, at the school level, down to the student level. So teachers are experts at knowing. They don't really always need a test to prove what they know. Their instincts are usually very good, but the data does really help them, I think, drive the intervention and the levels of instruction that they're doing within their classroom.
Do you think, I know this is what we've just been talking about, do you think we're doing enough with the arts and creativity and original thinking and whatever you want to call it?
I mean, we can always add more, but the school day is only so long.
I know.
I have to say that Georgetown is one of the communities that did not, in any budget cut that we've ever made, cut the arts. Right? I mean, when it would have been tempted to cut the band program and make it be an after-school activity and charge a fee for it, we haven't. And our number of arts classes at the middle and high school is extensive, more extensive in some ways than other districts have. We have a fantastic music program. I think, sure, we'd love to have, phys ed twice a week and, art at Pearly for every grade all the time. I mean, I think those are things we're going to need to look at going forward. But, I feel like we have a nice, well-rounded program. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan? And you were the consumer of it. Would you think we have a good balance between academics and the arts?
For sure. I feel like the arts program has actually been expanding at Georgetown. We've definitely been able to offer a variety of new electives, especially related to photography. Ever since Ms. Donovan came into the district, we've had the establishment of the theater program, the theater arts program, which is really great because a lot of people who are involved with drama have just had that as an after-school activity, but now they're getting formal classroom preparation education about it, so they can pursue that interest. The band program is going really strong, and because band is only offered one time a day for high schoolers, there's guided study band for people who can't fit that into their schedule. And the chorus program is really strong as well. And I feel like we're really proud of the program that we have. And the fact that we have 2 honor societies at Georgetown, National Honor Society and National Arts Honor Society. In addition to the Music Honor Society as well, we have 3 of them. 2 out of the 3 are related to music and art. So that shows the importance we have in the arts.
That's great.
Definitely.
That's great.
And again, I think at the elementary school, we're always trying to strike the balance, And at the elementary school, they have an opportunity often to integrate the arts a little bit more extensively. So, you might not always have a formal art block, but you certainly can bring art in through, all of the disciplines. And that's something that I know the teachers, if you walk into the classrooms at Pearly and at Pembroke, you'll see evidence of students' creativity and writing and all the things all over the place. So that's a credit again to the teachers and the administrators for making that a priority.
That's great. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, moving along. I lost my place.
I think
Budget?
we're down
Financial report?
Well, no, yes, but could I say one thing?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out Mr. Tardif's
Yes.
letter. Did you just to
Mr.
close that
Hastings'
loop?
response, yes, that was
I wanted
very
you to
nice.
have. I think I sent you my response as well. That was great. That Mr. Tardif, as you know, is a former teacher in our schools, and he was very concerned for the public's of the civics education and concern about how the frameworks have taken that aback. But as you can see from his letter, I think Mr. Hastings did an amazing job of really detailing the curriculum and where those kind of concepts are taught. So I think Mr. Tardif is feeling satisfied and is very happy that in 8th grade we do have the civics course. So just really wanted to close that loop with you and let you know how that was.
I appreciate Mr. Tardif speaking
I-
up.
I
and-
do
and
too. I
Voicing his
absolutely.
concerns, and I think they're
Mhm.
concerns that we all share, and I appreciate
right.
Mr. Hastings responding. so.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thank you for including that. Does anybody else have, does anybody have questions about the other information that the superintendent gave us in the packet? Nope. Okay, so financial report.
Well, we don't have anything formal, but this is the time where we're getting started with the budget process. And one of the things the school committee is responsible for is helping to set budget priorities. So that when Joan, begins to work with the administrators, we may have some congruence on what we're hoping to do with the budget process and what the school committee would like to do. So it's really an open discussion. If there's anything that occurs to you in terms of budget priorities, what I can tell you is that Sandy Garrity, the conversation I had with Cindy Garrity was that she's expecting to give the same budget guidelines as were given last year, which is she wants to see a number for salaries, non-salary items, and in our case, she'd like to see the impact of special education as we pulled it out last year, because that continues to be our biggest budget driver. She's asking people to try to remain, she doesn't use the word level funded, level service. And if there's something extra that we anticipate that we would need to do above and beyond, she just would like to see that pulled out and spoken about. So if we have talked about something like technology infrastructure in anticipation of Pembroke opening, and any technology initiatives we might want to do at the middle high school. So if we did talk about one of our goals being to advocate for a technology infrastructure. We haven't decided what that looks like, but that would be an example of something that would be maybe a budget priority, so that when we take a look at that and we make sure we try to put it in the budget. So it's really,
So would this be then the time to just bring to your attention perhaps programs at the elementary school for students who are not challenged by the curriculum?
Yes.
Because that does seem to be something that we're finding some boredom and frustration and
like a gifted
well,
program?
I really don't like that word gifted.
Mhm.
I just think, I don't know what that means. I just know that it's really hard to have your child come home from school and tell you that they were bored.
Because bored minds can find trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And asking for more challenges and not feeling like they're, she's not feeling like they're coming her way. I won't say that that's a daily occurrence, but I know we've talked before about maybe Georgetown, one of the things that we don't offer is enough more challenging opportunities for children at the elementary level to feel like they're being challenged in special ways. So that would be something that I have no idea what that would look like, what that would entail. It just
I actually printed out a list of ideas, and can we continue the conversation at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean,
absolutely.
one of them that I recall is just we had discussed a technology coordinator position as the administration goes forward and develops a technology plan to update the one that we have, and we look at how the devices that students are going to be using, whether it's their own or whether it's the schools, and how teachers are going to be integrating technology into the lesson plans and curriculums. And I just, I feel that is going to be a huge process to look at all that and have somebody to coordinate it all.
I think we
would
definitely
be helpful.
I think we definitely agree with that. I have to say though, it's so interesting to me because when we did the 5-year technology plan, it's just such an ambitious plan, and the first thing we said is, well, what are we going to do if we don't have any money? But I have to say that through the donations of parents, through the creativity of the administrators in terms of, prioritizing where money went, in terms of the generosity of GEF and PTA and other groups that have been willing to help us with that. I mean, if you go into the schools and you look, middle high schools are our area where we've put money into the labs more, and we've got some portable labs, but we don't really have a lot of access to like one-to-one. You heard Bill talk about one-to-one initiatives. There's a lot of places that are doing that. Beverly did one when Joan was there. And then, the smart boards, and Peter's doing things with Apple TV, and, we've improved the backbone in the schools with the wireless, avenues. It's just amazing how much has improved with really some just very strong creativity on people and generosity on people's parts. But we have a lot of things coming forward now. Now we have to make some very strong decisions about what's going to happen at Pembroke and the infrastructure and how that's going to be maintained, and what technology are we going to use at Pembroke, and how are we going to prepare kids at the middle high school, and what, so there's a lot of decisions that we've got a lot of things now in place, but they aren't as well coordinated as they might need to be.
Who right now would be the
Peter.
expert
Peter's
technology person?
done an awful lot for us, really on again, an extra responsibility that he's taken on, we've given to him, and he's been willing to do it because he's a giver, right, Peter? He tells me all the time, I'm a giver. So, but, Peter's done a lot, and then, we have some strong technology people. Barry Blanger's been very willing to do a lot of extra work. Mary Ellen Cronin at the high school, and Kyle Manuel, who does a lot with mostly with the hardware, but he does do some work with the software. And then we have some, technology, like Marianne Fravel, and some technology teachers, and everybody kind of gets together and helps and works as a team. But that's who I would say. I'd say thanks, to Peter, who's been willing to help coordinate it. And then the individual principals, Donna's brought a ton of technology, into Pembroke, and Margaret used her funds this year and now everybody at Pearlie has a smart board and working on Elmo's, and, new lab that's got, portable laptops. And so, we've been able to do a lot. But
we've come a long way.
We've come a long way.
It would seem, with technology being so important and it changes every day, that moving into Pembroke and how that's all going to work out, that there's somebody who is right up to...
Yeah, who can pull the technology people together, who can see what's out there. I mean, Joan's helped out. She's done the E-rate stuff, through Mike's been helping with the, we get the new intercom system, the phones have been upgraded. So as I said, there's a lot, but I think coordination, once you get all that stuff, you have to think about a coordinated plan for maintaining it and long term. I think we're at that place now.
Because as a small business, it's taken me 20-something years to finally end up with, after going through different companies, different people, a company that I know is going to be around forever, that I can count on as the go-to.
Yeah.
And they're not easy to find.
No. I mean, the town also, I have a proposal that I haven't done anything with because it's not the right time, but, the town outsources their technology, and they have a plan that every 3 years there's a new machine on people's desks, and they put together a proposal, for the schools if we wanted to take advantage of that. But again, until there's a coordinated plan, I don't know whether that would make sense to do or not. I mean, it's in exchange to that, it's a monthly fee per teacher. So, we've figured out ways to do it for less. Sometimes to have your own staff is better than to, outsource things, and sometimes outsourcing certain parts and not other parts is, so again, there's just so many complicated things that need to be thought about.
One right answer.
There's
to
not
that.
one
It's
right
always
answer.
a moving
No,
target.
and
It's
we've
never
got the
gonna be-
Oasis software now that we're doing for the educate, thanks to Peter's effort, and Julie's helped him a lot with that. There's so many technology platforms now that we're counting on, that we just have to make sure everything talks to each other, and that we have that infrastructure
But
and
it does seem
backbone.
having one person on top of it all, coordinating.
Someone that is a good match.
Right.
That's huge. It's one thing to be a technology whiz, but to be a good match, to speak
Right.
the same language.
Right.
Is
The other
nice.
thing I would just quickly point out is, the other thing is the staff has really stepped up. Like, we have these Tech Tuesdays, which staff members have identified, areas that the staff has said they'd want to learn more about. So anybody who wants to go and learn about, what's an example?
We had Google Docs.
Google Docs.
And creating like an online platform and doing grades online. And so we're learning about all the technology that the kids are using sometimes, but also how we can incorporate that into taking quizzes using cell phones and projecting, the responses.
I mean, this stuff would never have been talked about.
Incredible.
Several years ago. So it's that whole professional culture that, colleagues helping others, and
Stepping up and giving up and saying, I'd love to run that. I'll run that after school. We've had some really great success.
Yeah, and Barry Belanger's got he had Tech Mondays at one point, and teachers got, training on the smart boards, just what can you do more. So it's just, for me, it's just, gratifying to see all of the great things. But I'm sensing that, we need to just kind of, with all the things coming forward. What other priorities?
I'd like to, the school resource officer, I'd like that to be.
I just talked to Chief Cudmore today about that, because we talked about it a little at our safety committee this morning. His intention is to add that officer into his budget and see if it makes it through the budget process. What we all agree now, since the world has changed and there's been a number of incidents. Years ago, there was some question about, well, do we really need a full-time officer? And then, of course, like I said, things have happened, and I think we're all of the mindset, administrators and I discuss this too, that, it's time to have a designated school resource officer in the schools, but it can't be subject to funding. Because if you look at it, it was a 3-year grant, then the chief put it in had an officer designated and paid for it out of his budget. Then he couldn't pay for it anymore. Then we found the money, and then we went to the liaison officer, and we went to choice for the money, and and now neither of us have money, and so thanks to the goodness of the police chief and his commitment to making sure we have a structure in the school, he's reallocated some time. Certainly isn't full time. And I think this just has to be one of those things that if it's either as a town we believe in it,
right,
or we don't. And if we believe in it, then we shouldn't look at it as on the chopping block every time the budget gets a little bit tight. So so Chief is intending. He said to me he's planning to put it in his budget, and I told him we'd do anything we could to support that. But I'll put that on the. What about, we usually talk about, instead of adding things, because adding is going to always be tough, are there things that you want to make sure we maintain? Because if we ever get to the point where, the budget is what it is and it ends up looking like we might not be able to maintain everything we have. Obviously the administrators and I would want to give you guidance on that, because we know what's needed in the schools. But, maintaining class sizes,
Definitely. Yes, that's.
What are priorities for the committee?
I think that's such a hard question to answer when all the data we're looking at and looks so positive. The answer is everything.
Keep everything. Yeah.
Let's just keep doing what we're doing. So I think at the moment when that's an issue, and we can begin to hear what the administrators, if we had to make cuts, what your recommendations would be. I think that's a conversation that we could wait until such time as it was necessary to have.
Well, I think the priority though is, as much as we can, what you're saying is to maintain the level service. Try keep moving in the direction we're moving, funding what we're funding at the level we're funding it, as long as the data would support that it's still needed at that level. And then if there's things we're going to add, you want us to take a look at a couple of these things.
We operate on a very lean budget.
Yes, we do.
In the first place.
Yes, we do.
So it's not as if there would be places that you would, just see quickly. But maybe that's something that we could think about when we continue the conversation.
Right. And, we're always looking at redirection I'm looking at Peter. I knew he'd look up at that. We're always looking at redirection because, I mean, sometimes, when you evaluate something, maybe you're not getting the value you hope for, and maybe there's a different way to do it, and maybe it doesn't cost the same amount of money. We've done a lot of that to try to put the priority in the areas that we need it. But I think I just have to say we have a budget freeze. I hate to say it because, I mean, our budget is very transparent, very accurate. The principals do their best to build a budget based on what they need. But it's those things we can't always anticipate that continue to creep in and make it tough. So we, Joan's impression right now is that we need to freeze the budget, but not necessarily take the money from the puddles it's still sitting in. It's just a cautionary move at this point.
It's because of special ed, and I'm worried that if Donna has any more children that have to go out of district or need specialized services or whatever, we're going to be looking at cutting something if I don't have some reserve to go to, because it's so early in the year to already be watching this. I mean, we were in the same place last year with special ed, but
so early.
Right. Well, last year we went back and asked for money. We had a lot of maintenance issues this year, so I'm just concerned that we have to meet the special ed obligations. So you would be looking at probably laying off people if you don't have some funding.
Right. Middle year,
right?
Which is worse because then
you're 2 for 1.
Yeah, then you're hiring. But I'm sure we can all appreciate how disheartening it is, for the principals and people in the schools that are counting on a certain amount of money to be able to deliver their program, only to find out, 2 years in a row now in the fall they've had to spend only for essentials. So we're all working together on
is there
that.
A place, and I don't know, in the budget process where we go to the town. I mean, there's such evidence that what the schools are doing, what the administrators are doing, is really effective. That we already work on this very limited budget, and that we are seeing this growth in our schools and in our students, and that we have, and then to present these constraints and to ask it, to just say, look, what is this town, what are our priorities? And
I do think FinCom, though, has changed.
Yes, they have.
They have definitely started to realize, by them specifically asking for the salary item and then asking for that special education.
Right. Well, remember last year they did give us over a 4% increase because they did keep that in our base.
Right.
And we do have circuit breaker, but we've applied all of the circuit breaker.
Right.
So the challenge will be next year, we won't have a reserve in that account. So again, we want to use our money efficiently and, in a transparent way, but we are in a situation, this year that we find ourselves in. We did go to the town last year and they were very generous, and, I'm sure if you make your case, they would help again. We don't do what most districts do, which is to build in a reserve, a contingency within the budget, because we have other priorities that if the bottom line is the bottom line, we have other priorities that we feel are really important. We don't want to set aside money that we may not need and not be able to do some of the things that we consider to be essential to our priorities. So
that's an interesting philosophical question.
Yeah.
Is a contingency of a budget item that is that you have to have. It's not a. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
That it's a line
I
item.
mean, again,
It's an interesting-
we're happy
it's an
to
interesting
put one in and defend the need for it and defend the spending of it. But, if the bottom line is the bottom line and the town says we really want to try to hold departments to a 2.5% increase, which is kind of where they've been before, and that's why we separated it, because our salaries were 2.5%, remember, and we were level funded, which is kind of where they asked us to be in the non-salary. But as Peter said, there's a need for some textbooks. There may be a need for intervention materials to do some of the Common Core alignment and the RTI process that we're going to use. So, there are other things that may be new, and that's why in the past we've looked at something like choice. But the dilemma in choice is that we have to look at the spots we have. The only place we might have spots is at the middle high school. We don't have them at the elementary school. So every year, if you don't replace the choice kids that graduate and the number of choice kids goes down and down, then that reserve is, like right now, we look at it and we say we can't really go to choice securely.
Right. And we don't want to look at that account as
but
look at it that way, because we want, I class size, maintain the current class size, and to use that as like a bank almost, bringing kids in isn't a good way.
No,
to
you don't want to get stuck as it being having it be around like this was Dave Bjork's favorite thing. He said you're creating a funding cliff here.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, but that is what happens. Districts get caught in that because you don't have the discretionary money, and the choice money is good for your one-time expenses.
Right.
You're going to make a one-time mathematics purchase. And you can go there, you can take it out, and you know that money's going to continue to come in as long as those students are there. So you're right, Rob, there are some philosophical impacts here and things that we have to think about. But,
Are there any special education children right now that we're looking at that possibly could require out of district? I know last time we asked you, you had said that there were a couple that you were looking at. So has anything changed?
The status is the same as our previous discussion.
Okay.
So, some of what's occurred with the budget is we've had a couple of students who moved in over the summer who were in out-of-district placements already, and that's really hit the budget hard.
And you don't have a relationship with those families yet. I mean, even if we do have a good in-house program that we can move them into, people have to have confidence in that. There's a process, and we have been successful in a number of situations with people, as they've seen our programs grow and get better and heard good things, they've been more willing to, transition back. But it's about trust, and it's a process.
And it's not any type of requirement that when you move into town, you actually have to try the public school
it's not.
education.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right, Barbie.
In addition, the special ed IDA grant was cut this year. Title I was cut this year, so we've had to make up for those cuts through our budget.
And those were the smaller grants, but still.
Well, special ed was the big grant.
Special ed's the big grant.
Cut by 30? Were you cut by 20 or?
The total amount that we were cut was about 28,000.
And then I think Title I was cut about 4,000.
At least 4.
But Title I, when I first came here, Title I was about $60,000, and what is it now, Julie?
38.
38. So it's been cut in half
continuously.
Yeah.
But so we had positions budgeted for both grants that then we had to rely on district funds. That had to come from someplace, and when the budget's so small, there's no place to take it from.
And we've said that all along, that it's important to tell the story that we may have $13 million, but we run a $15 million operation. That that we don't believe it's good business practice to be funding positions on revolving accounts.
Right.
But in order to not have to cut and reduce and keep the budget increase to a level that the town can work with, those are the decisions and choices we've made in the best interest of kids. But it does cause it to be a little more challenging because you've got multiple things you're juggling. Okay, so I think we have some good. We can certainly have a further conversation.
That's
Did you
what
have?
I'm
You're counting on the further conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put it on for the December meeting.
Great.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay, are we moving on?
I just need Julie, but everybody else can probably go. Sorry, Julie. Or Donna. Julie and Donna for a map. No, come on up closer. Can we do the map?
Yeah.
Would you mind doing that? So, if we could just hop to new business for 1 minute so we can let them leave as well. Nice job, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so we gave you some information in your packet on this assessment that we'd like. I think I wrote you a few things in the notes as to give you a little bit of the rationale for why this particular assessment and a little bit about the process we followed. But Donna and Julie have been working on this. It ties very closely into our strategic plan, both in our assessment, the assessment area, but also in the RTI goal that we have for the district. So, ladies, we'll let you.
So, do you want me to start with the assessment, and then
Sure.
you can explain what we'll be doing with the data?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, this goes in line with our data conversation. we have been looking for the past 2 years at identifying a system that would help us to figure out where our kids are throughout the grade levels, our students, how are they doing with the new standards? Where are they in the process of learning? The depth of what we're seeing is being asked of kids now within the standards of ELA and math specifically. Because in 2011, as you know, our state frameworks changed, and so we adopted the Common Core. Massachusetts did for ELA and math. And one of the things that we were trying to identify as we aligned the curriculum is how deep is their knowledge as it comes to this place where we're aligning to the standards and realizing, wow, I mean, some of the questions that are being asked of students now is so much deeper. And even sometimes at a different grade level than you would anticipate. From the previous frameworks. And so as we're looking at that, we're trying to determine what kind of information do we need about our students and how are we going to get that? How are we going to get that across grade level, through content, and across district? And that is a huge process. For us to do it alone within our own system, it could take years to really get to the depth of what these standards are asking us to readily assess and to know the pieces of information that we need to know from our students. And so for the last 2 years, we have been hunting and pecking and piloting and trying, it just is an administrative team. The 4 major assessment systems that are out there that do that type of work. And we were looking for something, well, I was looking for something that would help us with ELA and math, but also embed science, because we could see that there was an issue as we were getting closer to the alignment of the old science frameworks and then forecasting what the new science frameworks were asking for. We needed to also get a sense of where are our students with science, especially in the elementary and middle school grades. You see the data at the 10th grade level, but what we're looking at is what's happening with students across the grade levels, K to 8. And so the assessment system that we identified to be the most effective for us and our needs was called the MAP assessment program. It's from NWEA. There is a packet in your folder from NWEA. We've piloted that assessment ourselves. We've met with the psychometricians several times.
Mm-hmm.
We've had very in-depth data conversations. And it's unbelievable when you sit with these people and really talk to them about what they do and
they love numbers.
Yeah, you have to love numbers to have this conversation with these people. But it's fascinating, really, at the same time. And we also, what I'm very concerned about is validity and reliability. How do I know that this is something that can stand the test of time and it's not just a one-hit wonder or something that will just go away and not to be used again. And so we talked a lot about, what does validity and reliability mean when it comes to assessing students, and how can we ensure that anything that we put our name on is something that we feel we can grow with and help our students grow with. And so after the 2-year process, we did identify this to be the assessment that we felt would best suit our needs and allow us to bring in a response to intervention program, which is something that we don't have in the district, but we are certainly ready and willing to implement. And response to intervention is similar to what Peter was talking about in the sense of the language-based strategies that we're working on at the middle high school as we're trying to make sure that all students get what they need. Response to intervention is that. It's making sure all students get what they need. And you have to identify, though, what the need is in order to get them what they need. And that's what the assessment will do for us. And then whatever programmatic elements we put in place will be the things that help us to get our students where they need to be. And the reason why I love it, too, just from a different data sense, we'll get a lot of good information on our students as readers, what their Lexile scores are, so parents can get reports. And when you're in a place where you're trying to identify how can I help at home and what are some of the things that I can do, you'll get some information on the parent as a parent, and I find the information that I get very useful as a parent. You'll find that whatever information you get is kind of the questions that you had. Where is my child when it comes to geometry or probability and statistics, or what is my child's reading level and how do I know how to work with that when I am trying to help my child read or write or, determine books that I will be looking for.
So how readily available would the information be to the parents?
We could make it as available as when we give the assessment. We
Either
could
fall, winter, spring.
We have fall, winter, spring summary assessments, and within that, you would be able to get reports and updates on your
progress
child.
monitoring.
Right.
Usually,
Is that
once
automatic?
you upload the data, it's about 48 hours when you can turn around and get some reports and start looking
We would-
at specific
Wow,
data
that
for the
quickly.
specific students.
Yeah.
It's really quite fast. And another advantage to having this system is that because it's a software platform, the assessment will adjust to the student. So if you have a student who is more advanced than other students, the assessment is going to adjust for that student and create more, advanced readings, comprehension questions,
And that-
mathematics.
That will help with the question that you had. Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt.
Nope, that's okay.
How can I ensure that my child is getting that advanced,
Right.
piece, and what can I do to help with that?
And then the same with students who are struggling or
even
having
know
some
if what she's
difficulties.
telling me is
Right.
actually accurate. Like, are you really bored at school, or
Yeah,
is that just
right.
a story that you're telling
That's
me?
not that. No, but
That's a different issue.
That's different.
But it would be good to have some
Yeah.
information.
Yes.
I think too, as a parent, you're kind of wondering, and we wait too for the MCAS course to come out at the end of the year, and that's the hard part about that kind of summative data. It comes at the end, so for teachers especially, it's difficult because they'll get their scores, if you will, on the students that they had last year when they come back in the fall. So how can you remediate or continuously support a student that you don't have anymore? Do you know what I'm saying? So
Well, my fear.
that's the other part of it.
My fear in this is that. So I mean, I can only speak from my daughter's experience in school is, and I haven't had a parent-teacher conference this year, but this is just judging that the teachers have a sense of this child needs to learn this in order to do well on this assessment, and so they're constrained to make sure she's getting what she needs to do to do well on the assessment. Or if she got the assessment today, she might be able to do really well, but if you move her beyond the assessment, would she still do, or would her mind go elsewhere? And I wonder about that. Like, why can't?
But that kind of, you look at the approach when you talk about response to intervention, we're looking at a tiered approach of providing some assistance to students. But another way of sort of flipping it and looking at tiered approaches of differentiated instruction is to take students who, understand the concepts, get the concepts that they need for the assessment right away, and then sort of create something where they're delving deeper into that same subject area, but maybe higher order thinking skills, maybe something more creative where you're pulling, as Rob was saying, that aspect of, curriculum, creating something more on their own. So there's different ways of looking at that data as well. So rather than moving from topic A to topic B, you're taking topic A and really extrapolating more from it.
This is not. I see the worry. This isn't preparing the kids for the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
This is a way to take a dipstick of where kids are in fall, winter, spring.
Sure.
The benchmarks change, so what the ladies are saying is true. But remember, we also do in the fall and in the spring, we do the Fountas and Pinnell, which gives us a different set of information about the student. And then, of course, we have the last year's MCAS scores in some cases, so we have a lot of data. So the goal here is to try to get a profile of the student and then identify those students who both need maybe an additional challenge. That's not necessarily means they're gonna look at the items that they got wrong on the test and all of a sudden remediate those items, because that item's not going to be on the test the next time.
Right.
You can't overthink the test.
Right.
It's same thing with MCAS. When we look at it, okay, so this year we did poor on geometry. You don't go and hammer geometry the next year because the test may focus on different standards the following year and only a little bit on geometry. That's why the curriculum needs to be standards driven. And any of these tests that we would give students, if they're getting a standards rich environment where they're learning the content and they're able to think and analyze and write, and they should do well on any of the assessments.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
so that's the goal here, is
Yeah.
to try to figure out what assessment's gonna help us with what. Right? And so we have MCAS that tells us certain kind of data. We have Fountas and Pinnell, we have writing prompts that helps us drive instruction in writing. But it's really looking at the profile of the child as a whole. What we didn't have was we didn't have any kind of a universal screen. A lot of our assessments are subject to some level of interpretation, even the Fountas and Pinnell. The teachers are listening to the child read and listening to retells and making a judgment as to what they think they see. This is one of those tests that the test is the test. There's no interpretation other than what the score tells you.
So each student would take the test sitting at a computer, right? And
50-minute sessions. They said 50 minutes for reading and 50 minutes for math, although they're not timed. They said some kids will take 50, some kids will take 20, some kids may take longer. But
and it kind of the test measures itself against the
Right.
students. So
well, it's kind of, I don't know if you've been on the Khan Academy's
Yes.
website.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that. Like when she
Yes.
does the math, then it comes in, it pulls out the different
Right.
things to
Right.
find out to kind of, so it works that way.
That-
to
it
find
works
out what
that
the,
way.
what the student doesn't know and what they, that's right.
yeah, and what I'm not a fan of norm reference tests. I'll just go on record as saying that, and the ladies know that. I'm not a fan of tests that are just normed. Because they're nationally normed, and who knows where they're made and what the curriculum is being taught. But they give grade levels and they give stanines, and that's all good. But I'm not a fan of that because I don't think it really tells you the same thing as a test that's really measuring the standards. What appeals to me about this test, and the reason that I supported it as we went through this whole study, is it's aligned to the Massachusetts standards. So it's different than what I would consider to be a standard normed reference, a California achievement test, Iowa test of basic skills.
remember those?
They ask you 3 questions. If you get one wrong, you're toast. So, and I'm not sure in 3 questions whether or not you can really determine whether a student really understands that skill or concept.
Right.
So I've always been a little cautious about those. I understand why people give them, and but I'm not sure you get real data that's all that helpful if you're trying to use it for some reason. But this is different. This is aligned to the Massachusetts standards.
So when the people who put this together, that was their model.
My priority was the alignment to the standards because that's what we're doing right now in our work. We're doing this in vertical teams, we're doing this in grade level teams, we're doing this in teams at the middle school. We're aligning to the standards and making sure that we're teaching the right things and doing it to the depth that we should be doing it.
I know you.
So I couldn't.
I just so you know, Rob, just to answer that question further, this little document here, this Common Core map, this was actually produced by the company, and if you read through it, it really is very instructive as to how this really is lining up with the standards and why, what it's measuring. So that's why I included that for you, because I thought when I read through it, I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And this is why I think it's something that we should support. There is a little ongoing cost to it, which we get to the budget priorities. We'll talk about that.
Just very quickly.
Yes, go
curious,
ahead.
Did the other 3,
Yes.
they also geared towards the mass standards?
Yes,
they
I
do.
would say that's true.
I'm just curious.
One
They were.
was not as comprehensive and didn't include science. So that was one we ruled out.
Right.
Another one was much more extensive. In fact, it would be a system that we would love to have. It's called Galileo.
And we had laughed a little and said 5 years from now we would want this, but today we need this. We don't need to have.
We're juggling a lot, and what we need is to just get what we need. Right, we just need to get what we need and not get the bells and whistles program that maybe we could use all of it within a 5-year period. I mean, we did
critical.
We did have a little session with the teachers. We're doing this in K through 8 and 6 through 8 in science, and I mean, I think the teachers really had an open mind. Some teachers can't wait for this because this is what they've been waiting for. Other teachers are a little more skeptical, and I think the resistance that we saw, if we saw any resistance, it was really to, oh my God, Carol, the timing. This is
Right.
just one more thing. And, you know, we think we can see how this can help us, but it's one more thing, you know. So, you know, we're sensitive to that. We understand. And we said, you know, our goal would be to do a baseline in the winter, you know, so we're going to do some training with the teachers, and we're confident that once they see how the results come back and how they can see how it can help them, you know, help them focus their teaching maybe and get more information on their students, that, you know, their attitudes will come along.
Are the teachers?
There's not a good time for it, no matter what you do.
Well, and I relate to that. Are the teachers feeling overly stressed in general? At a breaking point in general, when I hear just one more thing, the emotion that comes up for me is that I can't take a lot more.
Well, they're
so
pretty
much,
stressed.
this is the and I equate this to 1999 when all the frameworks came out the first time, and MCAS, and I'm trying to think back to when was there a time when just as much was happening, and that was the time. And so now we have new frameworks in ELA and math, a new teacher evaluation system, and everyone has done such a wonderful job learning that, getting ready for the new assessment when we get out of MCAS.
All the alignment to the curriculum, the map.
All the things that Carol spoke about at the State House. I mean, it's just, if it's here, and everyone I talk to, it's everywhere. It's every
this is not unique to
No,
Georgetown.
I'm sure.
And actually, I think our
So-
teachers are feeling a little less stressed than maybe they are in some other districts because of the way we're trying to roll it out. Like the teacher evaluation, we did a little training, then the teachers got to work on the topic. Then they did another training, and then they got to work on the topic, as opposed to we did 5 days of training and everything came crashing in, and then they didn't know how to put it all together. So, you know, and everything we do try to train them, and we do try to reassure them. I mean, our teachers are really talented. I mean, you know, one teacher said to me several years ago, and this is several years ago, so that you can imagine how they feel now. They said, you know what's so hard for us is we feel like we're going from like 1975 to 2022 in 3 years, you know, and I mean, that is how they feel, you know, and so our best efforts are to try and, you know, put things in place in ways that make sense, but you can't really balance
priorities.
Do they, and it's a different question for you, do you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Do they see the light at the end of the tunnel?
I think they
do.
listen to us.
I think they know that at some point we will be aligned. Very soon, actually, we will be aligned, and we will have that teacher evaluation system under our belt. We'll have gotten through it, and to know that it can't be like this every year.
Right.
It couldn't possibly. We couldn't withstand the intensity, and nor do we want to.
No, you don't.
You know, nor do we want to.
It's not helpful to teachers. They reach a saturation.
But to know that yes, at some point we
not
will.
a healthy way to live. But I mean, ultimately, I mean, this is the key to RTI, response to intervention, which is going to reach out and identify all of the struggling students. I mean, special education, but
And it's gonna
not,
help
you
the
know,
teachers
general
know what to do with
education. And when you can help those struggling students, you know, right at the beginning of their struggles, then you're going to be saving so much aggravation and effort and difficulty down the road.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I see this as it's going to long-term, you know, maybe benefit, maybe short-term, hopefully short-term, but, you know, there are benefits in the future. But
I think it's going to be
to me, it
both,
all
Pam. I
seems,
think you
sounds
make a
so
good point.
worthwhile.
But I think that, you know, the stress on the teachers, there's no doubt about it, but then, you know, you still see all these wonderful examples
so
of the
good.
professional cultures of
and they come out
people
with
coming
these
out
amazing things that
I can
as
see
stressful
that.
as it is, they're so dedicated to their jobs and their professional culture that you don't even get that sense in the vertical team. That doesn't come through the door. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's.
But they have questions.
help
You know,
the
it's, a
students.
lot of it is
They
still
want
a lot of it
first
is
things to
still
help students
fear-based.
learn.
You know, like, you know, teachers really. I mean, they're developing trusting relationships that are different than ones they've had before, because now they have to. Things are more transparent. They're more open. There are people in their classrooms more often. They're sharing their data. They're having to participate in the process of evaluation. I think everybody agrees it's all good. It's just, it's the volume of it, and it's the pace of it. And as I
it's
said,
the fact that we haven't had a lot of input in that. It's a lot of 90% is a state-driven, initiative. So
Or that little
it's-
puzzle piece graph
Right,
I showed
think
you.
about that all the
You know,
time.
I mean, that's a pretty good indication. Every single one of those things doesn't hit every teacher, but that is what we're juggling in public education today. So our attempt here is to try to find tools that are going to be useful to teachers, not more work to them, something that's going to be useful to them. Something that they don't have, because one of the things that I did mention to them when we were chatting is that down the road, they're all going to, as part of their educator evaluation, get a rating of impact on student learning.
This
This
is
is going to help them.
This is going to
right
help them
now it's a
document what the
burden,
impact is.
but
Yeah.
when they have it in place for a year or two, when that comes online, this is going to be a way for them to help measure growth of their students. So it all, it's like this, all the marionettes, right? And you're trying to just make them all dance in the right pattern. And it's hard when you're not the one who can control it all, So that's part of it, is everything connects with everything else, but the poor people that don't know what all of what's coming down, it does feel sometimes like, are you kidding me? I thought I was all set. Now you're adding one. So,
But may I
it's a
just add to
challenge.
our previous conversation, I consider this a budget priority.
So we were able
So
to
how
find
much
it,
is
we
that?
were able to find the money this year. We took money out of both Donna and Margaret's revolving account. And then Peter, because Peter really, his budget is pretty tight right now, he was able to find $1,500 in his guidance testing supplies. It's a testing line. So he worked with Mr. Umbro and determined that that was money that he could
So what was the total
redirect.
cost of it?
What was the
Like
PO?
around-
For this year, we broke it out into 2 years. So for the 2 sessions this year, it's about $12,000.
And it's a per
yeah.
student cost.
It's a per student cost, so it's the K to 8. I believe it was $6 a student, and then the 6 to 8 for the science was an additional per
Just
student
$6 a
cost.
student?
So
So
it's
going
it's a-
forward,
it's an
we
effective
would have
process,
to
though.
budget for that.
Mhm.
So one of the things we've talked about, depending on what the cost is for I think it was going to be 12 or 15 for next year.
15.
So 15. So we were talking about seeing if we could identify, each school could put $5,000, into their budget and just build it in as a budgetary
Thank you.
expense. So that's one of the strategies. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep. Thank you. Good night, Ryan.
Night.
You know, that's.
Do you want this?
Sure.
Okay.
That's, would be a budgetary expense that we could perhaps put in the budget for each school.
Right. It's very interesting.
I look forward
And I
to
think it's-
hearing.
yeah.
I look forward to hearing how
Testing comes out?
how it comes out and how
how it works.
How it works, and if it meets all of your hopes and expectations for it, that will be a very interesting thing to discover. And
Julie and I have both worked previously in districts that have had universal screeners, and they really are excellent. They not only help you drill down and focus on what the students are doing, but you can take a look at your overall, class and see if there's some areas that you want to focus on yourself. So it has a wider and broader approach of looking at the data, which eventually we'll get into that down the road. But, we're going to take smaller steps
step at a
just
time. Sure, of course, to
exactly.
get started. That makes
And
sense.
on January, in the second January meeting, we'll do a little more in-depth presentation for you on the district's
Right.
strategy for RTI.
Great.
Oh, good.
This is I think it's a good segue too. So we're talking about, this and data and numbers and assessments and I think all of this stuff is really important and needed, but there's this little piece back here that still goes, so where's the rest of life in all of this? And I come to that book you talked about, and I think it's worth having a discussion, and I know there's 10 million things going on, Carol, but I really think it's worth this board having a discussion in depth about what role that may or may not play in the school district's budget. You know,
No problem with
put it
that.
on the-
I'm
talk
just
about it.
cautioning you that unless it fits nicely into what we're doing, you know, then I would be reluctant to take on it, and I wanna learn more about it.
Totally understand.
I just
Totally
would caution you that, you know,
Anything-
but I know you want, yeah, I hear that, and we can figure that
Yeah,
out.
because anything that would cause disruption it doesn't make sense.
No, if it's helpful, if it's helpful, then it's worth doing.
So
you
it's
know,
worth looking into.
It's certainly worth looking into. I think you're talking more about the mindfulness
Yeah,
stuff.
just the other part
Right,
of how.
so, I mean, that's
Well,
something that
I
we've
think-
been talking about in our
I
special
think
ed programs.
The way I hear it talked about in school language is the social and emotional learning
Right.
that
Mhm.
needs
Yep.
to happen for
Yep.
students, and that you can't expect the kinds of gains that we would hope for in English language arts and mathematics and science if the students are not socially and emotionally in a position where they can be receptive to learning.
That's right.
And so, and I also find that teachers who are overly stressed may not be as effective as instructors in their teaching if they're kind of on that breaking point, right? So then something happens in the classroom that on any other day when they're not stressed wouldn't bother them, and they'd be able to manage it very well. But I will say, as these things come, you know, just because that's my professional interest, the mindfulness in schools and all of that, and I'm interested in having the discussion in this school, I also think you do a really wonderful job of balancing all of these things here. So I float those ideas.
That's why I asked you. I'd be interested to see the resource because it felt to me when I read through the syllabus that it looked very much like a curriculum, and I don't want to add another curriculum.
I didn't look at it, Carol. It just came across. Came across my email, and I actually am very preoccupied with things.
I like to
and
look at
didn't
it in
wanna
the
lose
context of what we're doing around social curriculums
But I
and,
also think it's-
health and wellness.
That's how I'm
I
thinking
think
about
of it as
that's how I
as
see
something
it.
of the purview of the wellness committee, that we really need to talk about the wellness of our schools. We need the emotional well-being, not just not just what we're eating.
Right,
but
No,
what
absolutely.
we're asking our brains and our minds to do, and there's just so much
I think we
research
can definitely
now.
talk about that when we meet.
And so I appreciate you bringing that in, and yet I just also want to always say that when I float things up, it's out of
interest.
It's out of my interest,
Yeah.
and also, but never to say
we have to do it,
or something's wrong here, like
Yes.
I'm perceiving a problem, because in general,
Well, that's
express
helpful,
that to you
Alana.
a
Thank you
little
for clarifying. So that's helpful. So, any other questions for the ladies? So we can definitely keep you posted.
Yeah,
and
I
keep
look
us
forward to it.
posted
I think it's
on
great.
what we're
Look
doing.
forward to hearing
Yeah, we're pretty excited about the chance to do it.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna and Julie.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think now we don't have any other big stuff.
Julie.
Get your pen, right?
Okay, so do we want to now go to subcommittee reports?
Yeah.
Okay. Budget and finance.
We haven't met.
We haven't met,
Right.
but we should probably
I've sort of been out of the
meet to talk about the budget
Yes, I
timelines
think
and
it's a good
calendar
time
and
to-
all that kind
we
of
need to
thing.
set up a
Is it-
meeting, because I
who
don't
else
think
is
we
on
even
with Rob?
have one set up.
Me. You and Rob?
We don't have, we'll set up a meeting.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Governance?
We met tonight. We continue to review policies. We are making modifications. Those should be coming before the committee, as they seem to take longer to discuss than we had anticipated. So there is some slow movement, but there is movement in the review of the policies.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Negotiating, we haven't met.
No, but we should meet because we need to talk about the process for negotiating with those groups, yeah.
Public relations, Pam?
We will be meeting tomorrow morning at 8:45, and we'll be discussing Facebook and blogs and all kinds of public relations topics.
Lately, the public relations has been around the soil testing at Pembroke.
Yes, I think we've been doing.
Well, I just
getting
want
the information out.
I just want
on
to say,
that,
as far
what
as
we're trying
PR
to
is
do.
concerned,
Yes.
I went into Pearlie yesterday and I said to Margaret, Carol's been, look at Twitter, and you were on Twitter quite a bit.
Was I?
Did you hear anything?
No, I
No,
didn't
the
hear
kids were, it was all great. They were like, shout out to Carol Jacobs for giving us a day off of school, an extra day. It was very funny because then it was like
It's amazing what you're famous for.
Yeah.
Snow days. And
then it was like
Watching
it just like a domino effect. All of a sudden, another child said it, another child. It was very funny.
Oh, very funny.
With hashtags, we can do a search.
It was very there were no hashtags. Did I?
No
notice?
hashtag Carol
No,
Jacobs.
but if you just say Carol J, I know. Can you search just Carol Jacobs and everything would come up?
I don't know Twitter.
It was funny.
Twitter is not my
Have
thing,
to
so I don't
try
know.
that. Yeah, it was funny. So the kids were happy. With
Thank you very much.
Safety, you met today?
Safety, yes, we met today, and let's see, we discussed that the Georgetown principals, the bus drivers, and the North Reading transportation personnel are going to get together. They haven't done this before, and it's just going to be to review and familiarize everyone with district, with student discipline protocols, use of forms, and best practices. We also discussed the Cindy wanted to know the protocol for snow days, and Carol was saying that basically the decision is always made by 5:30 a.m. of that day. Try to do it earlier, but that's the deadline. Cindy said she's available 24/7.
So she's good with that time. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal to call the buses.
I mean,
out
I
there.
usually am calling on the phone with the bus company at 4:30.
Right. Okay. And you also updated the committee on the public community forum that you held the night before.
Last night.
Last night. Right, time goes by. Which drew about 100 people and was very successful in terms of getting information and in terms of allowing the public to ask a lot of really important and good questions that was on their mind. And we had, what's the name of the firm from Concord, New Hampshire?
Wilcox and
Barton.
Wilcox and Barton, yes, and so they were there, and I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think it accomplished exactly what I'd hoped
Very
it was
good.
going to accomplish, which was that everybody that came that had a question got to ask it. And the consultants, I thought, did a very, very good job of being, very open to the questions. They answered, even when there was maybe some, attempt on the part of some people to kind of, trip them up, I guess, to somehow get them to say something different. They were very consistent because they really know what they're talking about. I mean, there were some overall concerns throughout the town, in terms of, and I think it will come up, as to whether or not as a school committee, you want to find funding for and authorize testing of all of the schools. I don't personally think that's necessary right now. I think I'd advise you to wait until we get all of the testing back. If it's a naturally occurring phenomenon, then we have to determine, so what is the actual risk and how does that all work? But the good news is we're waiting for, in fact, I had hoped to hear something today actually, but probably tomorrow we'll really have pretty much all the rest of the information on the data that they've done, which is the internal swipes of the school and the deep soil testing primarily in the fields and the playground, and then they did some deep and shallow. Quite a few. I think they did 60 samples in the new construction zone, 30 on the fields. I thought they were very effective. I do think that people had a sense, some people had a sense of a little bit of relief and confidence that they had a better sense that, what the level of risk really, is and what the remedy might be should the results come back with the requirement.
Can you, for the committee, when is the report going to come out that's going to say this is what you need to do to fix it?
Okay, so that I think first they're going to look at the data. They're going to see what the data suggests to them.
They're trying to determine if it's naturally occurring or not. And then if it's naturally occurring, then the action plan could look different. It can be more flexible. It's like, for example, instead of if the regulations dictate the remedy, then it's pretty cut and dry. You have to do this. This is the way it goes. But if not, then he said there are some alternative creative ways to look at this. The solution is separation. That's the answer to the question. It's separation, but how that separation could occur can maybe look differently. So I'm expecting that if there's no further testing, beyond this testing that they feel needs to happen, that within a few weeks we would have a clear recommendation from them on what would need to occur.
And what that schedule will do is then the district will know what they need to do to fix it, and we will then know how that's going to impact the construction of Pembroke.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Right, so they
schedule.
have the health and safety plan in, because I had to upload it all. So they had the health and safety plan, they have the health and safety and the dust management plan, all written, and I uploaded it to DEP.
Yeah.
So they have said that they're going to, DEP is going to review it as soon as they can, and they're saying they're not gonna wait the 21 days, they're gonna expedite it as best they can. And they're waiting for a verbal okay, but they're hoping that all of that will happen in, construction. If it can't start next week, it could start the week after. But, they have all of those, the dust monitoring, requirements and all of that. So that the hope is, as soon as they are able to mobilize and get all these plans, approved.
Get it going.
We go.
Well, I think you did the right thing by putting that form together. I know people had said, I had a couple of people that said, she doesn't really need it. And
yeah, I know.
There were people that came out and those were the experts,
That's right.
and I felt the same way. I felt that their demeanor never changed. They never got on the defensive. And I understand how people can be really frantic about this.
Very upsetting, absolutely.
And I'm glad that you said too, because I know after the selectmen meeting, the first thing I was saying is we gotta get these other fields tested, but I am looking forward to seeing what the results are, because it is swaying more towards this being a natural occurring, which would, not be a great thing, but it would certainly ease our minds a little bit that
and
things are a little different than what we
and
people originally thought.
And you might want to compare it, like I've looked at CDC measurements for pancreatic cancer, which is one of the top cancers that would come from arsenic, and actually in Georgetown it's below average. So if this is naturally occurring, but there's no actual consequence of it in terms of public health, then that's just could be another perspective.
You have to just go through the process. It's a norm, it's a matter of public concern, and I think my approach to this, and as it has been with every situation we've faced in Georgetown, from the roof collapsing to the bomb scare concerns, is the more information you can give people. Information is power. That's why I've been trying to post as often as I have new information. That's why I did the forum. That's why I'll continue to post the information. And if we need to have another community forum when it gets to the action plan stage, we'll have one. Whatever it takes.
And to communicate to the public that we're very, very concerned about the children.
Everybody, the staff, the faculty, the children, but
their safety.
I think you've done everything that
Well,
I
we're
think
working on it.
I'm looking at as a
That
parent,
is-
that's what needed to be done. I mean, closing the fields, I know it's not ideal, I know the kids need to get out, and it's great to see that they are getting out, you know, cause the weather has been nice and they need that fresh air and stuff, so I think,
but they're
I think
under
they're
focus.
I think
They're
the parents'
stressed.
concern
The
is
children are
definitely
stressed. The parents are
felt,
stressed.
but I
Absolutely.
think you're doing everything that you really have to.
I think, and I've said this a couple of times, but I think Carol has sort of been the anchor that has pulled this thing together for the public. in a way that I'm greatly appreciate.
Well, thank you.
appreciative of.
Well,
I've said
that's
that
why my
before.
name's on the door, right?
Well, yeah,
You
but-
know,
We're glad
you
your
have
name's
this-
on that door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huh?
We're glad your name's on that door.
Thank you, I
Yes,
appreciate
yes.
it. But thank you,
But
Rob.
it's-
You know, I do
Ditto.
think that's a major responsibility of, you know, the superintendent is, you know, to, you know, act as a point person for the public, you know. And, you know, any questions that people have fielded, you know, sent to me, I've you know, responded right away, or if I didn't have the answer, I made sure I got it, you know, because I feel like the only thing that's going to allay people's fears is for them to hear the information, have a chance to digest the information, you know, be able to ask your questions, and then, you know, you still may not have a high level of comfort, but at least you're not, you know, you're not reacting from pure emotion and supposition and lack of information. So,
And to be
you know.
able to see it on the website. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple people who were not aware of the fact that you're updating
Yes.
as soon as you get information and in detail with everything.
Yes.
But it's right up there on the website.
Right.
You don't have to go seek it out or find it underneath this.
Yeah, I
and
try
that.
to put it right-
It is,
right
it
in a
is right there.
primary
So
place.
if people are wondering what's happening, just keep checking the district website. Just
That's
go to
right.
it, you'll see it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not something that, you know, any of us had hoped would happen, and, you know, but, you know, it's like anything else.
You just gotta face it head
You just
on
have to
and-
face it head on and be transparent and.
Doesn't it seem like, though, the older you get, the more these things just kind of like, well, there's something else.
No.
You know?
No, I said to Carol, I wish I had her attitude, because I'm like freaking out, and
It's
she's like,
kinda like-
it happened, we gotta move
We
forward.
gotta
I'm
move
like,
forward.
okay.
Well, you know, there is a,
You have a
there
sense of
there
security
is
when
a
you-
solution out there
Yes,
somewhere,
that's
a
right.
remedy,
And it's like
we
if
will
you,
find it.
and I keep saying,
We
if,
will
you know, if
find
you
it.
went to the doctor, because you had, you know, something, you found, the doctor saw something in a test, they wouldn't keep coming back and telling you this test and that, they would wait till they had a diagnosis before they formulated an opinion, which is why I really didn't entertain the discussion last night about what if, you know, how much is it gonna cost? Well, I don't know what it's gonna cost, because I don't know what the solution is. So why would we waste our time on that at this point in time? Let's just concentrate on access to information, understanding the information, the impact of the information, and then once we have everything, then we'll know what the recommendation is, and then we'll deal with it.
Right.
Because we will deal with it, because it's right and best for kids and staff and this community. Okay, wonderful. So
everything else, that we have new intercoms at Georgetown Middle High School, which are working very well. Some replaced broken telephones. We've entered into the NEMLEC membership.
Yes.
Right?
And Chief Cudmore went to a meeting today in somewhere, and we are membership. We were going to have to wait till the spring if he didn't go today, but he was able to go today, and we're in the door.
Great. You already talked about the school resource officer, and then Winter Street construction around Georgetown Middle High School is going to be the day before Thanksgiving and the day after Thanksgiving. So Winter Street will be closed. Right.
Is Winter Street closed right now? Oh, Winter Street, just
Winter Street.
just where the Verizon
So Maple
building
Street
is.
People will be
open,
able to come in
Winter
through
Street will be
Maple Street
closed.
into the school,
Right.
but you can't go out.
Won't
You
affect-
wouldn't-
won't-
Right.
won't affect
The
the football.
Won't
Wednesday
affect, won't affect, no, no.
But still, drop off and pick up should still be
I tell you,
at ideally.
people have been dropping off and
Pearly.
picking up at Pearly, and it's been running smoothly.
Well, I
So
have
I'm
to say,
hoping
it's-
people stay with it.
It
you know.
is running smoothly. There's a little more traffic, but
Yes.
having a police officer there, and I thank Chief
Yeah.
Cudmore for that.
Yeah.
That it's very nice to have him there, because there have been kids walking.
Yes.
And having him there has been great
Okay,
to see.
I'll make sure I
So,
pass it on to him.
Yeah, that's good.
If there's any way, I'm sorry, if there's any way with Pembroke that the children
I'm
can
gonna
be allowed to go up to that, in that interior hill of the island that they have now access for the, you know how they have access to go out play in front of the school where the drop off
interior
is?
hill.
And so there's that hill.
In the
that
middle?
parking lot, yeah, the middle.
She was very adamant. That's why I had to cordon it
know,
off.
I know.
She
Why?
said
About
it's
what?
dirt. She said that you don't want the kids. It's
Oh, to go
apparently
on
the
the
issue
hills?
is dermal.
Yeah,
so
they don't want them
they
going on
don't
that hill.
want
Oh,
them
all
on
right,
the
all right,
hill.
all right,
So
okay.
I had to restrict them from
Oh,
the
I
hill.
thought it
They
was-
can
I
only
thought it
stay
was
on the
that 'cause
concrete.
that the staff couldn't see the kids, and that was
Well, that would be a factor, but no, the
Oh, okay.
the tarred
Yeah,
tarred
done.
area has the separation, and that's why
Got it.
we're focused there.
Got it. All right.
I think one of the questions last night somebody asked was, why isn't that area covered by mulch?
Cause it was not required and we cordoned
Okay.
it off, we cordoned it off.
Yeah, I knew that you
Yeah.
had said that.
Yeah, she
they
said it
can't
wasn't
go up on
required.
that hill,
Yeah.
because they'd have to literally, the kids would probably have to get down on their fours to get up.
They would.
There with their hands and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Okay, school building committee, I would assume we, everything Carol just
Covered
told
that.
us, there's
Covered.
really nothing, okay. And CPAC?
CPAC, yes, I believe there is a CPAC meeting this Tuesday at the Pembroke School at 7 o'clock. It'll be Dr. Molly Cook talking about executive function, challenges and disorder, and what we can do to help our children who struggle with that.
So 11/19, Tuesday night, and where is that?
I'm
Is it-
pretty sure it's 11/19.
Is that a?
It is. Is it? It is good. Okay.
Is that a Pembroke?
I believe so.
It's at Pembroke.
Pembroke. Library?
Yes. Library, 7 o'clock, and Dr. Molly Cook is wonderful. She, people who
Yeah,
go there will learn
yeah.
a lot, and I've heard her before, and I look forward to hearing her again.
Yeah.
I just briefly want to say that the staff committee did meet, we met with,
Gail.
Yale, I was gonna say
Yale
great, but
Associates.
that's it.
No, that's
Yale
the other one.
Associates, it was a great meeting, it was very nice to talk with the two representatives that came out from there. We have another meeting scheduled for next Thursday. So we're moving along. They gave us a timeline and right now,
When Thursday? That's November 21?
Thursday night
Thursday
at
night.
6:30.
Yeah.
They may
Yeah,
have
that was
more-
in the notes.
They
the
may have
minutes
more
that I
business
forwarded you.
than they know.
Huh?
They may have more business than they know
Yeah,
coming from
I know.
Georgetown.
So 6:30 at the, at Pearl, we're gonna have that.
Sorry.
Okay, so now we just have to
Go through
make
new
a couple of
business.
motions.
Yep.
Under new business, okay. Do you wanna talk about the Kim Kiev trip, or should I just say that?
You go ahead.
Okay, the only question that I had on this was changing the, the student activity checking account will be temporarily increased from $10,000 to $30,000 from November 15th, 2013 until May 2014. Do you know why that long of a time period?
I think that's been the standard motion.
Oh, okay. For the Camp Kiev trip. So the chair will entertain a motion to temporarily increase the middle school student activity account maximum from $10,000 to $30,000 for the period of November 15th, 2013 through May 30th, 2014 for the purpose of processing receipts and payments for the students attending Camp Kiev.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the student advisor stipend approval.
Yeah, this one just snuck by. This is
Yep.
this is a position, when we implemented the, community service, program, we increased the stipend each year. And this is the final amount that the stipend will be. But, when it was one grade, it was 600, and then when it was a second grade, it was 1,200, and it was a third grade. So now we're at the maximum. So this is just, to confirm our agreement.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the side letter of agreement for the community service advisor stipend of $2,400 for the 2013-2014 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and we have two Pearly School donations, which is always so nice. Every time we have a meeting, it seems like we have
Every meeting there's a donation.
donation, which is very nice.
generous.
Every
It's
meeting there's a donation.
inspiring.
So so these aren't anonymous, so I can say that. So one is from Ray Gooley, and the other is from the Georgetown PTA. We have a $100 donation from Mr. Gooley, which I thought was so nice because just because, which was very nice of him to do that. And the PTA donation for $500 will be used for enrichment opportunities. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $100 donation from Ray Gooley with gratitude.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $500 donation from the Georgetown PTA to be used to provide enrichment opportunities with gratitude as presented.
So moved.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
The Georgetown Building Supply and Georgetown Liquor Store have donated proceeds of a raffle to the Georgetown Middle High School Music Department in the amount of $500, which is another great,
Very generous.
very nice of that business to do that. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $500 donation from the Georgetown Building Supply and Georgetown Liquor Store to be used in the Georgetown Middle High School Music Department with gratitude as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Melanoma Foundation donation. So in partnership with the Mike Donahoe Road Race, the Melanoma Foundation of New England have made 3 separate donations to the high school student council, the boys cross country team, and the girls soccer team, each in the amount of $200. Are these separate motions?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $200 donation from the Melanoma Foundation of New England to the high school student council with gratitude.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the $200 donation from the Melanoma Foundation of New England to the boys cross-country team with gratitude as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the $200 donation from the Melanoma Foundation of New England to the girls soccer team with gratitude as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And, okay, the final, is the approval of a fundraiser.
Right.
Which, I know we have, approved this before, cause it was Donna Robbins that came
Yes,
before us.
exactly. That's
And it's a
correct.
very interesting,
Yep.
fundraiser. Did you guys get a chance to read Brett, Moyer, who's looking for this, the approval of the fundraiser?
Yes.
Put a little, piece of paper in there explaining what he's going to do, which is, quite admirable that he would do that.
This
And-
American Lung Association?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's doing that on behalf of the American Lung Association. And he's also doing it in memory of the former fire chief, which, Mr. Durkee.
Mr. Durkee.
Which I think is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
nice for him to do that. So he would be soliciting staff, correct?
Yeah, he wants to put this in people's
mailboxes. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the American Lung Association fundraiser as requested by Brett Moyer as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think,
No executive session.
no executive session, so the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:07
So
PM.
moved. So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
I gotta see what's in.